The story begins under a bright blue sky, where a boy with fiery red hair commands Leald to attack with all his strength, with expression reflecting his resolve, while his opponent, Sieg, a blonde boy with an large grin, encourages him to engage, introducing the tale of the golden lion growing up and of the boy known as the golden pig. A young woman with long hair gazes at Sieg with a mixture of disbelief and hope, softly uttering that it must truly be him, and asserts that it could only be him, as the narration reflects on the depth of their connection and how, as long as they are together, they can go anywhere, with her words penetrate deeply within her soul. A boy with glasses clenches his fists triumphantly after completing a task, declaring that it is done and praising Fate 48 as truly great, as narration reveals his name is Sendu Makoto, and he reflects on how stories serve as the only escape from his pain and sorrow, providing him with a sense of immersion that nothing else can match. It shifts to a promotional poster for Fate 48, describing it as a masterpiece game created by a veteran producer, featuring 48 writers and illustrators, and boasting the ability to conquer up to 64 main female characters with additional DLC content, as a girl proudly reveals that she purchased the first limited edition that comes with the model, while Sendu comments that Leald was not included in the events, emphasizing his role as the final boss. This unfolds the introduction of Leald, who is the most base character in the game, as he is abusing another person, as the group of boys stand along him, and Leald comments he won't be judged no matter what he does, as he boldly proclaims himself a golden pig. Sendu thinks he is so bad, as there is nothing to like about this guy no matter what they see, and pities him internally, while someone shouts at him to stop, as that is not good. Leald confronts and challenges another to prove his awesomeness and deliver proof, and soon Sendu clicks on the mouse. Sendu is criticized for causing trouble for his company, leading to a formal apology from his superior, as he bows his head in shame, as he remembers the frustration of his superior, and wonders why the blame went to him. In a tense workplace environment, Sendu is pressured by his superior to complete work by the next morning. They discuss if they are working overtime again, and another says Sendu said he would do it, and that he said he wanted to do it himself, which is so hard of him, hearing which he calls them bully subordinates, and narrates that his superior surely would have heard it. He recalls the complaints against him, as they ask if he knows how much his cursory way of work causes trouble for others, and that he cannot make the relevant departments of the receiving company handle these consequences. Even so, Sendu does not want to think that this world is full of hateful people, and thinks that if he deals with the consequences of these, then maybe they won't care. Lamenting on the number of paperwork he still has to do, and apologizes to Mako as he is late again. In the library, Sendu asks a cheerful young man with spiky hair called Takahashi why he is there since he was supposed to go straight home today, who exclaims with delight that he is there to help. Seeing this, Sendu looks nervous and hesitant, but his cheerful colleague says that he passed the responsibility to himself anyway, and is referred to as a diligent expert, to which he gives an unsure response. In a close-up of a meal, Takahashi insists that Sendu eats it, adding that he will invite him to meal tomorrow. But for now, he should just eat what is in front of him. Sendu reflects on his luck in having a colleague who understands him, and remarks that the food is delicious and hot, to which Takahashi promises to show him the place next time. Contemplating, quietly, Sendu acknowledges that in this world, not many things will go as expected. Reflecting on character traits, he states that he dislikes sly people who only think of their interests, adding that the expected ending is never good, as he watches 3 individuals enter a room. He thinks that Leald has finally been defeated, imagining an intense battle scene, and the fallen King Leald is struck down by Sieg, who lands a critical hit and ends the fight. As he observes the great battle with awe, Sendu internalizes that disgusting people like Leald are everywhere, as he imagines the defeated Leald. He remarks on how using violence against girls is the most unforgivable action, criticizing Leald for being selfish, just like their superior, and soon acknowledges that this is the end. But he wonders why he is still thinking about going to work while playing games. Quietly, and with a determined resolve, he reflects that at times like this, focusing on the character Sieg is the only option, as he clicks and prepares the next move. Then, a chaotic moment ensues as a young woman screams in surprise and falls, her skirt flipping up while another person remarks softly on their luck, while the girl apologizes profusely, and asks if she can get up. The young man introduces himself as Sieg Flit, who is the main character of Fate 48, and suggests that they simply call him Sieg. Surrounded by a group of female characters, Sieg is described as approachable and always lending a helping hand to those in need, with none of the girls able to resist being moved by his kind and selfless nature. Sendao remarks how the main character of the game is truly just a fictional image. As Sieg stands tall and confident, Sendu notes how the relationship with Claris, the female character associated with the hardest level of conquest, is nothing short of a miracle. He reflects on how everyday life without dreams or hobbies feels dull and unfulfilling. As the clouds move lazily across the horizon, overlooking a sprawling city, he considers how his only motivation each day is to eliminate boredom through Fate 48. With a focused expression and his hand raised, he feels a sense of purpose, thinking about how he can prove themselves through the image he has created. He strongly declares his intent to express himself, reflecting that Sieg saved him, which fuels his desire to complete his goal, while the screen in front displays that there is only 2% left. Suddenly, he exclaims, overwhelmed with joy, that he has completed the game with 100% accuracy, marveling at how downloading more content has allowed him to collect a full set of 64 characters. And his sparkling eyes reflects his immense satisfaction. He leans back in his chair, exhaustion and relief washing over him, as he mutters to himself that it is finally done, everything is finished, and he is now free, with his body sinking deeper into relaxation. Soon, he thinks that he wishes to erase all his memories of the experience, so he can relive the touching emotions all over again. As he lies on the bed while gazing at the ceiling, he reflects that he hasn't played enough yet, wondering what he will do tomorrow to continue raising Sieg level, as his tone tinged with sadness. Soon, a chaotic scene ensues with voices shout in the darkness, demanding Sieg to be hit and killed, while someone screams in terror, and another curses angrily, as Sendu clenches his fist and wonders what this is. Sieg steps forward protectively, shielding the girl behind him from Leold, and his punch sends him flying to some distance. Sieg points firmly at Leold before him and declares with conviction that he is unworthy to be Claris' fiancé, and commands him to never involve himself with her again. With a sharp gaze, he orders Leold to leave immediately and get out of their sight, while Claris behind him clings to him nervously. A fat boy suddenly exclaims in shock, identifying himself as Leold Harvest, questioning why his fingers appear so fat as he looks at his hand in disbelief. With his expression of confusion and panic, Leold, still reeling from the shock, exclaims in confusion, questioning what is happening, while Sieg and Claris walk away, but he asks them to wait. Leold struggles to move, with his body feeling unbearably heavy as he exclaims that he cannot move, to which someone in the background comments that it serves him right. Voices echo menacingly around Leold, calling him a golden pig and telling him he deserves to die, while they loom ominously with their words filled with scorn, as Leold's face contorts in fear and disbelief. Leold screams internally, questioning why people are saying such cruel things to him, and asserts desperately that he is not Leold but Sendao Makoto, with his sense of identity and reality crumbling. Leold panics as he examines his body, exclaiming that this belly is too fat to be his, and his hands are not this chubby. His voice trembles with disbelief as he grapples with his body. He clutches his face in shock, and laments how there are no glasses or chubby cheeks like this, while another character comments that Sieg is so nice. Leold recognizes the different character identified as Arena, who stands confidently and is described as one of the main female characters, and the daughter of Duke Van Stein, who sternly warns against calling other people's names so informally. She recalls with frustration, stating she had warned Leold many times before, and questions if being the fiancé of Claris would excuse any behavior. As Leold asks what is going on, Erina asks what more there is to say now. She asks if it's true that Leold intended to use violence against Claris, hearing which Sendu realizes that is right. As Leold in Fate 48, Leold treated Claris as his property, and made her obey him, leading to hate when she happily spoke with Sieg, as the situation darkens with a blade, as he decides to hurt her. And that Sieg saw it, and jumped in to protect Claris when she was almost hurt. As the tension mounts, Sendu experiences vivid memories that feel so real it is as if he lived them, while his wide-eyed expression and trembling conveys his confusion. Erina confronts him, asserting that he cannot say anything anymore, even as a noble. She adds that he is not innocent in everything, to which Leold protests she is wrong. He cries out to believe that it was not him, and says that he is not Leold, but instead identifies himself as Sendao Makoto. Hearing this, Erina calls him a scum. She accuses him of having nothing to be proud of, and harming not only Claris but also Sieg and others, and questions how many more people he intends to hurt before he is satisfied. She comments on Leold Harvest, describing him as a pitiful person. Soon, the fight concludes with the Leold sitting alone, questioning if he is truly Leold. Suddenly, the situation escalates as people command him to get up, calling him a pig and sentencing him to exile at the border of Zeet, and that he should never return, because he dared to hurt a woman. Leold's tearful expression and trembling form reflect his shame and regret as the situation settles over him. As the crowd takes him near the gate, someone yells for Leold to leave, calling him a damn pig and shouting for him to get out, to which Sendu calmly internalizes that he told them he is not Leold, and asks to trust him. After this, in a grand hall, a stern figure fuming with anger declares disappointment and threatens to strip him of his right to be the next heir, while a woman clasping her hands nervously pleads with him to say it is not true, and a well-dressed butler accuses Leold of sullying the family's name and questions if he is happy now. In narration, Leold's parents and family did not believe his words, leaving him isolated, and reflects that no one in the world stands by his Sendu's side. In narration, a few days later, he is on a carriage going to Zeet through a peaceful countryside. No one followed him, who has no power left, so he could not ignore it, and his father sent 2 servants to go with him, as he thinks that is right and doubts who would want to follow him right then, since he is a round pig and evil. Who is the Leold he saw in the game? He realizes this, and panics that he is so desperate, he could only laugh it off. Seeing his reaction, the girl gets alarmed as she wonders if she would get harmed. The 2 people sitting in the carriage were also sent to follow Leold, who are the butler, Gilbert, and his niece Sharia, who is an apprentice servant. As he observes her, he must admit that it is just like in the game, with high resolution, as he finds her quite cute. He thinks that at times like these, he should keep a polite smile to increase a good impression on Sharia, seeing which Sharia is further worried. To this, Gilbert apologizes and says he will teach Sharia again later, to which Leold replies no problem, and tells them not to mind him, hearing which they are surprised. Leold admits that forcing them to accompany him to this harbor is originally due to his immortality, because even though they know he is a bad person, they still came with him like this, as he feels sorry for the 2 of them, hearing which Gilbert goes speechless. Finally, Leold steps on the ground, and Gilbert announces they have arrived, and Leold realizes this is the Zeet border, as he feels he is actually in the game right now. He gazes out in amazement, as he sees the scenes that were originally on the screens appearing in front of him. Gilbert calls out from ahead as the 3 of them approach the grand structure, while Leold realizes that this is the Zeet castle. Leold panics with both hands on his head, thinking that assassination, poisoning, and killing will happen here and that this will be the place where he must die, as he believes he was chased there. He walks cautiously while thinking that for him, this castle is a place full of dangers, so he must be very careful as the others watch with alarm. As he falls to the ground, he grits out that he can't move his body as it is too heavy and pathetic. With a dirt-streaked face and tearful eyes, he clenches his fist, thinking in times like this that he feels something within rise. As he wonders why, a girl asks firmly if that means he is sorry, and adds coldly that it's so easy to run away as her eyes narrow. And 2 girls declare that they hated him from the beginning, and that they were stupid to believe him even a little. As she walks away, she says bitterly that it's always just excuses. He finds it disgusting to recall getting surrounded by hostile students shouting at him, as he hears voices mockingly demand if he thinks his family is that big, and ask why he can't say something while someone says doesn't he feel ashamed, and that he's just useless so he should get out of there, hearing which he wonders why people say such mean things to him. As the crowd scream go away, he realizes that not a single person is on his side, and being denied like this is so heartbreaking, so as he stands apart and cries silently, he thinks he is really Leold and questions if he can even go back to his original world. He determines that the only way to continue living in this world is as Leold, and wonders what to do and what he should do now. If it is Sig, then he will know what to do. With firm resolve, he recalls Sig gave him the determination to never give up, no matter what adversity he faces, because he must find a way out. He declares with fierce passion that even if he was reincarnated into the evilest scum of humans, a golden pig destined to die in any form, he is not giving up. He resolves that he must live at all costs, and knowing everything about this world, and remembers that as the heir to the Duke, Leold is a high-spec character with top sword and magic talent, despite his lousy personality, as he vows to change and overturn the fate of death at any cost. He places his hand on his chest with determination, aspiring that someday he will become an admirable man like C. Sendo Makoto realizes that he has been reincarnated into the world of the Eroge destiny, 48, and the moment dawns on him, as he stares at his hands in disbelief. Of all characters he could have become, he was reincarnated as Leold, the detestable villain, and as the despised golden pig, as his expression reflects the weight of this realization. Leold finds himself surrounded by hostile gazes and is subjected to relentless insults for sins he has no memory of committing. As he crouches under the enormity of the accusations, as he bears the burden of Leold's innumerable crimes, he laments that as Leold, the lowest scum imaginable, he has no allies to turn to. He acknowledges that every route in the game ends with Leold's death, as he reflects on the hopelessness of Leold's existence as a character whose fate is sealed. But with determination, he resolves to carve out a new life as an upstanding person when he inherits Leold's life, with his hand pressed against the ground in a struggling attempt to rise. His determination grows as he vows to survive in this world and stand side by side with Siegfried Zexia, the protagonist adored by all, who always forges ahead, his eyes shining with hope as the vision of this future spurs him forward. Finally, he declares that no, his goal is not merely to survive, but to someday surpass Sieg. Seeing him trembling from exhaustion, Gilbert asks if he is okay, while he remains silent and huffs in response. With a tearful and earnest expression, he looks up at Gilbert and pleads for help, confessing his desire to lose weight. Hearing this, Gilbert's expression sharpens with sudden intensity, and he declares with conviction that he too wants to change. Gilbert watches Leold attempt a clumsy swing and remarks in astonishment that he never thought he would hear Leold utter such words, as his tone shifts into admiration. So he solemnly vows that his life's final work will be to reforge Leold, rejecting any other purpose, and he declares his commitment to serving Leold in Zeet. Gilbert firmly declares that he shall reforge Leold's mind and body through sparring as he instructs him to prepare himself, and Leold, with wide eyes, nervously questions the timing. After a while, Leold wakes with a start in bed, clutching the sheets as he cries out that it hurts, with tearful eyes convey the raw pain. He remembers getting struck once in the stomach, unable to see the opponent moving, much less do anything about it, and the memory of his helplessness. Gilbert stands poised as expected of the man feared as a legendary assassin that the Harvest family made their butler with his purposeful presence. Leold stares in disbelief, thinking he has to spar with such a monster, cursing inwardly and questioning if he can even survive that. He clenches his fist in determination and tells himself to snap out of it, reminding himself to avoid death and do everything he can to grow stronger, promising that he will surpass him. Then, Gilbert calls out as the door opens and hurriedly asks Leold how he is feeling. As Leold pleads desperately and insists that he fights him again, Gilbert advises it would be better to rest for today, but he is interrupted when Leold begs him again. Soon, he falls back on the back as he feels the lingering damage, exclaiming in frustration and disbelief that he'd go down to a single finger, while Gilbert bids goodnight to Leold with composed respect. It's been a few days since he came to Zeet, while a sharp cry of frustration echoes from within the house. As he apologizes, saying he didn't mean to surprise her, but Shiria runs away, saying, "Excuse me," leaving him sighing that he is used to her avoiding him by now. He crosses his arms smugly and admits to himself that, to be honest, it's almost stimulating. As Gilbert looks on confused and asks if Shiria did something rude, he denies it but remains uneasy, as he shivers slightly under the overwhelming bloodlust and nervously asks for no more death flag. He looks around the empty room and questions with disbelief if not one person came. He realizes that they couldn't hire anyone even when offering double pay, while he sits slumped in frustration, letting out a defeated groan. To this, Gilbert apologizes, sincerely saying he has no excuse and explains he wanted to prioritize finding a chef and maids, but the failure weighs visibly on him and Shiria. Hearing this, Leold sighs nervously and admits he already knew, but reflects that he really is the world's most hated person by a wide margin, and says that he is just reaping what he sowed. He offers to help with everything he can, and admits that managing the huge mansion is really too much for just the two of them, to which Shiria looks on in surprise. To this, Gilbert hesitantly asks if he should request his father to negotiate for them. Leold answers and awkwardly admits that he doesn't see another way, and asks if they could take care of that after a pause. Gilbert says, as he wishes, while Shiria appears unsure. As the door shuts behind him, the man says, "Then I'm counting on you," while the girl hesitantly calls out Grandpa with a concerned look. She questions if Leold was always like that and remarks that it kind of feels like he's gone crazy. To this, Gilbert suggests observing him for a little longer. After a while, Leold gasps and huffs while admitting he just wanted to take a little walk around the house but feels totally exhausted. as he looks at his hand and compares it to cream bread. Soon, Gilbert calls him out. He introduces someone named Barbarat Dogram as a suitable practice partner for him, and Leold looks on in shock and in disbelief. Barbarat greets him with a serious expression, saying, "Pleased to meet you, young Harvest," and explains he is here in response to the invitation sent to the Knight's Order. He narrates that he has no recollection of a character by that name. Someone describes Barbarat as the best swordsman in Zeet and a trustworthy person. Leold acknowledges that of course there would be things happening outside of Sieg's point of view. But he feels uneasy as he notices Barbarat's cold eyes piercing through him. While Barbarat mentions there are a few things he'd like to ask before they begin practice, and Leold nervously asks what it is. Barbarat, with a sharp gaze, asks if the rumors about him are true, to which Leold hesitates with a clenched fist and admits they are. Hearing this, Barbarat questions why nobles exist and why they are given special privileges. Leold gulps nervously and replies that he cannot say it in good faith as he is now. But since they are nobles, they are given more from birth. He expresses his belief that they should toil for the sake of the world and its people, rather than for their own benefit, while Barbarat watches him silent. Suddenly, he clenches his fist tightly and demands to know why. If Leold is aware of that, he still chooses to act this way. But he stops himself as he mumbles to himself, and apologizes for his rudeness, and means no offense. So he lifts a practice sword and declares they will begin, instructing Leold to try to hit him, and he responds with determination while clenching his fists. The boy charges forward but trips and falls with a loud plop, while the man observes him silently, while others in the background appear surprised. To this, Barbarat, with a stern expression, suggests they start with basic practice swings, as Leold acknowledges his own clumsiness. He huffs with effort, and says he understands and pleads for Barbarat to show him how to do it. Leold resolves to start with what he can do now, deciding to show the man his present self by doing everything he can. Then, Barbarat shouts instructions telling him not to force it and to use his whole body instead of just his arms, to which he struggles but listens. Suddenly, he swings his sword with increasing energy while Barbarat encourages him, saying, "That is it," as others watch the scene unfold silently. As Barbarat acknowledges and says they will do light sparring next, Leold, drenched in sweat, says okay, and with excitement declares they should move on to the next step. Barbarat charges forward with a shout of "now," and swings swiftly and powerfully, as Leold gets hit and falls in some distance, and he realizes that Barbarat is serious. Seeing his state, Barbarat asks if he can go on, hearing which Leold realizes that he is seriously trying to beat him into submission, but doubts as if he would fail here and he will take the bait while sweat drips down his face, and he replies that he didn't even feel that. Hearing this, Barbarat thinks to himself that at least he's got some guts, while Leold pants and trembles while catching his breath, and Barbarat asks if he knows why he came here today. To this, Leold stammers and stares wide-eyed in fear, while Barbarat glares back and yells with intensity that of course there's no way he'd know, as his sword slashes through with a loud clack. Barbarat furiously asks if he has ever once reflected on his own actions as he swings his sword. He shouts that his victims were in so much more pain than he is now, while Leold cowers and cries out. As the sword smashes into the ground near him, Barbarat declares that a noble is someone seeking to act befitting their station and points his sword at Leold, while explaining that this is the very first thing Leold should learn. Hearing this, Leold kneels on the ground trembling and sweating, and agrees completely with Barbarat's statement while his body shakes in fear. He pants heavily, gripping his sword, and answers that this is why he is here now, as he questions if this is really the rumored golden pig, while his eyes fill with determination. Leold cries out in pain and frustration as he yells there's no way he'll be defeated, but Barbarat strikes him down with unrelenting force and accuses him of acting, as though he's had a change of heart to garner sympathy, and angrily declares that this is the punishment he deserves. As their swords clash violently, Shiria in the background questions if they should stop them, pleading to her grandpa while he silently watches the battle unfold. But Barbarat roars that Leold will be atoning until the day he dies here in the middle of nowhere. Leold shouts back that he will make up for his sins and that he needs to be stronger in order to do so, to which Barbarat looks furious and demands how dare he spout such nonsense while their swords clash with a loud clang. Leold and Barbarat clash their swords with immense force, the energy of their battle sending shockwaves through the air, as Leold screams with determination, and Barbarat matches his strength blow for blow, sending him flying again. Leold lies on the ground panting heavily with his face covered in dirt, and declares that he won't fall in a place like this for his own sake, and that he will make good for his sins, while his body trembles with resolve. Hearing this, Barbarat stares at Leold in shock, with his eyes wide, as he wonders why Leold won't give up. After a while, Barbarat questions why Leold keeps getting up while he trembles and cries, clutching his fist, and declares that he wants to be a real man, as Barbarat wonders aloud what Leold is doing. But finally Leold collapses to his knees. Seeing this, Shiria rushes forward, calling out Leold repeatedly, as she asks if he is hurt, but he lies on the ground silently, with his expression unreadable as the others look on with worry. As he replies that he is fine, he thinks that people really are kind, because when he became Leold, not a single person worried about him. He recalls his friends, and realizes that no matter how hard it seems, he now has to live with the life Leold led. As he sits on the ground with Shiria nearby holding a barrel of water, he gulps from it. He manages to say thanks, while Gilbert laughs, asking if moving his body is fun. Barbarat looks wide-eyed and serious, as Leold declares that he has his thanks. Hearing this, Barbarat shouts in frustration, asking what Leold is saying, and insisting he should understand the situation. He explains that he was trying to give him a hard time, to which Leold agrees calmly and responds. Of course, he thought he was being quite rough, but it sounded like he was going to stay with him forever, and says that it made him very happy. Leold reflects on how much he has carved into his heart, just how important the basics are as he stands, and says it was a good lesson and thanks Barbarat, to which Barbarat replies that he has no excuse. He admits he despised Leold because he took mere rumors as truth, but acknowledges that despite that, he had asked him to teach the sword without blaming his rash action. Barbarat stands solemnly with a hand over his chest and apologizes for how impolite he has been today. To this, Leold firmly says that he didn't blame Barbarat because the rumors are true, to which Barbarat looks at him in shock. Then, cheerful, Leold waves and says he will be counting on him again tomorrow, which shocks Barbarat again. To this, Barbarat pauses mid-step and shows his gratitude again. After a while, Shiria rushes in calling excuse me, and asks Leold to let her tend to his wounds, to which Leold looks surprised. Leold looks at his hand and says it's nothing serious. It'll heal right away, but he admits to himself that he knows it can't be helped, but having no one take him seriously is pretty hard. Then, Leold suddenly acts cheerful and says just kidding, as he showed a pretty lame side of himself there. Then he turns away and waddles off, saying he's hungry and can't wait for dinner. As Shiria watches him leave quietly, soon Leold's smile fades and he stands alone in silence, telling himself to stop. He slaps his own cheeks and tells himself to get a grip on himself, because nothing has ended or even started yet. Leold perks up and says all right, while Gilbert asks if this fine, hearing which he blushes. Gilbert tells Leold he's grown quite a lot, as they stand facing each other. Hearing this, Leold laughs nervously and says, "What does he mean, young master? He's not a kid anymore," and he replies true. He recalls that the current Leold has the same spirit as back when he was called the Golden Child. Gilbert expresses how truly delightful his life's last great work has turned out to be, that the honor is much greater than he deserves. He bows respectfully before Leold, addressing him formally as his master, while maintaining a formal posture. Leold smiles and thanks Gilbert with a bright expression, while thinking that he can't erase Leold's past misdeeds, but he keeps walking forward, and surely someone will see him for who he is now. He will believe in that. Gilbert promises that he will do his best tomorrow as well, and cries out and turns away. To this, Leold looks concerned as he asks what he is crying for, thinking to himself that to think Gilbert would cry, and wonders if it isn't out of character. Then, someone calls out good morning, Leold, that shakes out the house, to which Leold reacts with surprise and shock while gripping his practice sword tightly. Barbarat stretches with a big smile and says what beautiful weather they have, and decides to do their best as well today. He instructs that they will start with practice swings, as the basics are important after all, then calls Leold to proceed, as Leold looks on with a determined expression. Leold says he looks forward to learning from him, while reaching out to squeeze Barbarat's hand. To this, Barbarat shakes his hand and says that he is happy to teach him. As Leold winces and thinks it hurts, he observes that he sure is a forceful guy, but resolves with a gentle smile to believe and move forward. He stands ready with a practice sword facing his instructor, and as they train together in the open field, with sudden bursts of action sends him flying. He looks on in shock. He grins with determination, then a month passes and he notices the change in his body. Seeing him, Barbarat exclaims he almost didn't recognize Leold, and he proudly thinks this is the result of daily training. Then, Leold throws his fists in the air and shouts Yahoo as he loses weight, which makes this his first big step, while Gilbert reacts in shock by calling him out. He orders Gilbert to look as he has lost some weight, to which he reacts in shock. Then, he narrates that just when he thought that his second life as Leold would go smoothly, someone knocks on the door and politely asks may she please enter, to which Shiria from inside responds, yes, she'll be right there. Then a girl politely bows, seeing whom Shiria asks who might she be, as the maid stands smiling at the doorway and giggles in response. Someone solemnly declares, humans are all just blood and meat and bone beneath their skin, but their true nature never changes, as she asks what might have triggered this sudden change of heart. Introduced as Sylvia Algabane, who seductively touches her lips, she declares she shall tear off his sheep's clothing, as she calls out Leold Harvest, while in narration, destiny takes an unexpected turn. Sylvia cheerfully replies nice to meet her and explains that she came here on the recommendation of Leold's father, and introduces herself as the maid Isabel. Hearing this, Shiria nervously stammers that they have been expecting her. Inside a lounge, Sylvia observes that it must have been rough taking care of the mansion with just them two. Sylvia respectfully expresses that she looks forward to working with both Shiria and Gilbert, to which Leold calls Isabel, and warmly apologizes saying he is sorry for having them come out here in the middle of nowhere, but says he look forward to working with them, to which Sylvia happily responds in a yes, and Leold blushes internally while exclaiming so cute, but then panics by thinking, no, hold up a minute. Leold, internally, panics, realizing it is yet another character after Barbarat that does not appear in the game, as Isabel brightly smiles and requests to give her any order he would like, while he struggles to understand how someone could greet such villainous trash as Leold with such a bright smile, thinking there's no way and wonders what's up with her. He thinks that the route he is on in Destiny 48 is the unexplored Leold route, which means that he needs to brace himself, especially against characters he has never seen before. But he suddenly reacts to the sight of large melons, and with burning resolve thinks he must. Nevertheless, despite everything, her skills as a maid shine brilliantly as she elegantly balances tea and plates, and Gilbert gulps the tea nervously and exclaims that it passes. Shiria silently sips from a cup with flustered eyes, while Gilbert praises her by saying she is amazing, and Isabel humbly mentions that she's no match for him, while Shiria quietly reacts, it's delicious. Shiria trembles slightly while thinking with teary eyes that she is supposed to be her senior maid, and yet there's nothing she can teach her. Hearing this, Isabel firmly grasps Sharia's hand with a sudden motion, and gently says that's not true, as Shiria reacts with surprise. Isabel warmly smiles and explains it's only because of her splendid orders that she can excel at her work, hearing which Shiria blushes. With admiration, Shiria says she's so capable, so she looks up to her and assures with bright encouragement she's sure she'll be a wonderful maid. To this, Isabel suggests why don't they prepare dinner together, hearing which Shiria joyfully exclaims she would absolutely love to, so they ignore Gilbert and slam the door with dramatic force. Seeing this, Gilbert cries out in distress, while Leold questions if she didn't say that she would always stay with her grandpa. Leold laughs and asks him to calm down, but Gilbert reacts in shock while asking, could it be? He points accusingly and asks if Leold too wants to steal Shiria from him, to which Leold flinches back and thinks that he is so damn scary. Hearing this, Leold stammers, that's not it, as he means Shiria is still a kid, and then urgently adds also. He sits at a desk and explains she's something like a little sister to him, and reasons for him to calm down because at most he feels protective of her. Hearing this, Gilbert repeats and acknowledges with a tight smile and protective little sister. Finally, Gilbert nods while saying well said, as Leold thinks he really calmed down, this granddaughter-loving old fart. Gilbert states, but that person is by no means an ordinary person, to which Leold asks if he is talking about Isabel. Gilbert continues with a serious expression that she's very skilled as a maid of course, but that mastery of her own body that's not something average people can achieve. He narrows his eyes with a knowing look and concludes most likely she's the same as him. Leold recoils in shock while realizing that she is an assassin, and panics because this is yet another death flag for him that wasn't in the game. To this, Leold politely requests, sorry, but asks if he could look into her just for safety's sake, to which Gilbert replies as his wishes, then he shall take the appropriate measures immediately. But suddenly, Leold is alerted. Leold thinks and exclaims such a beautiful assassin, and questions if this is an Eroge. He grins mischievously and gets fired up, saying, all right, he is so excited now. After a while, flushed Isabel shows her pants and comments that Leold wanted to do some late-night mana sharing, to which he is initially shocked, but internally rationalizes when he thinks of maids. It's only natural. He thinks of the famed night service development and nervously admits mana sharing sounds kinda lewd. Leold affirms to himself, this is the world of destiny, 48, and thinks, no matter if they're assassins or maids, but beauties are beauties. He reassures that he needs to steel himself, while he knows he is a named character in an Eroge, and desperately wishes he could get 1 or 2 lucky pervert moments. But he despairs, thinking he never thought he'd get a taste of the dark side of destiny, 48 like this. Then, someone gently offers to wake up and asks if he wants a drink. Isabel leans in close whispering, as Leold reacts in shock and cries out Isabel. Isabel smiles innocently while asking, since when was he here, and comments that she did knock on the door, but he didn't answer. To this, Leold outwardly stammers, sorry, and internally panics like hell. He could say he didn't notice because he was thinking perverted thoughts about her. As he recalls the temptation of the erotic maid event that happened to Sig, Leold frets while wondering if this raised a flag for him as well. To this, Isabel leans in closely while asking if he maybe dislike hot stuff, hearing which he realizes that she really is coming on to him so hard, and wonders if her affection is maxed out from the start or something, while she sweetly offers that she would better blow on it, and Leold gasps stunned. Leold stares helplessly as he thinks of her melon power, of which there's no escaping. All of a sudden, Leold stumbles and cries out in pain, while Isabel gasps as liquid spills everywhere in the chaos. As Leold sits soaked on the floor, Isabel frets how terrible he got scalded, and gently asks if he could please take off his clothes, while Leold sulks that it looks like he wet himself because of where he spilled it. He blushes and stammers, while internally freaking out wondering if this is the erotic maid's night service event. As Isabel pulls insistently, she urges him to take off his underwear as well, while Leold screams to stop please, and shouts, requesting to at least be a little gentler. And Isabel calmly questions if it is really something a noble should be embarrassed about. She sweetly asks if he likes doing it gently better, while Leold sweats and responds normal is fine, as he inwardly panics wondering will she get the hint. As Isabel tries to take out the stain, he thinks that this can't be helped then, while she kneels between his legs and Leold reacts. Finally, Leold realizes with burning cheeks that this maid is the personification of physical desire, as he dramatically gasps. Suddenly, he wonders weren't he going to change his image, and calls himself a pervert trash and curses himself such an idiot, while Isabel watches him tumble in confusion, and finally he crashes to the floor. As Leold falls back startled, he stares upwards and blurts out white, thinking, this is the Eroge-like development, and marvels at how fearsome the gravitational pull of Eroges are, making it such a dream world. Then, he lies flat on the ground in stunned silence, and says sorry while Isabel stays still. Suddenly, he is launched into the air as Isabel's kick sends him flying with her calm looks, and Leold notices that white again. Then, Isabel sweetly asks that she hopes he isn't hurt, to which he sits trembling and awkwardly questions what just happened now. Isabel smiles and explains he fell on the chair, so she merely helped him back up again. Hearing this, Leold sweats and nervously laughs while thinking her way of helping someone up is way too unique. But he internally panics, thinking if she is saying that he was a moment away from death when he saw the white paradise, as he didn't want an erotic event bad enough to risk his life for. And then someone asks if she has cute undergarments. Hearing this, Isabel leans forward with a mysterious smile and asks if he saw anything. To this, he laughs awkwardly and says well nothing, and that he didn't see anything while thinking, who cares if he raises a few more death flags this late in the game. But another part of him frantically screams that he really doesn't want to die. Leold replies nothing at all and thanks her for the tea, to which Isabel exclaims what a terrible accident that was right for both of them, and Leold agrees, but realizes internally that the lucky pervert event turned out to be a death flag event, and narrates that Leold swore to try harder to live a sincere life. After a while, Leold shouts in shock and asks what he just said, if Isabel is a spy working directly for the royal family. To this, Gilbert stands diligently and confirms, yes, there is no doubt about it. He calmly reveals that she serves the fourth Princess Sylvia Argavain. To this, Leold thinks anxiously that she is a popular sub-heroine who cannot be romanced in Destiny 48, making her the Saintess Sylvia. He internalizes that in the game, there is an event where monsters assault the capital and Sieg will be in a pickle, but he manages to make it out victorious and unscathed, thanks to Sylvia's skill of divine barrier. Not only does she have a divine barrier, Saintess Sylvia is also both smart and beautiful, as he recalls that in the game, Sylvia never had any interaction with Leold, so he questions why she would send a spy. Leold wonders nervously if there is some kind of unmentioned relation between Sylvia and Leold in the setting, and then panics internally thinking, is this another death flag, and remarks that was much faster than he anticipated. Then, Leold calls out to the maid Isabel, to which she responds well done with a mischievous smile. To this, Leold anxiously considers if maybe the Saintess is just being suspicious of the fiend Leold. Then, he demands to know for what reason did Her Highness send her here. Isabel casually replies, "Who knows?" as she just received the order and claims she does not know what Her Highness is thinking with a playful expression. Isabel asks if he plans to fire her, hearing which Leold wonders if the mansion can function without her, and wonders if she is negotiating with him. It shows a balanced scale of distrust weighed with the fact that Isabel helps Sharia and Gil with their tasks. On the other hand, they are in need of an Ero maid, while also being under surveillance might help prove his innocence at some point. To this, Isabel exclaims how flattering it is, and states, but she's just a maid that's a little skilled, to which Leold comments that even her self-evaluation is pretty high. He narrates internally that it's obvious she would be suspicious taking his past into account, but it doesn't change the fact that there's only one thing he can do now, which leads to training as he practices with his sword. Suddenly, someone nervously approaches, while asking if they could have a moment, which surprised him. He sees Gilbert, and realizes that he did not notice him at all. Finally, Gilbert announces it's time for their practice, to which Leold asks if Barbarat isn't coming on this day. To which Gilbert explains that Barbarat is currently away on duty. Leold thinks that this is a good chance and time to put what he learnt into practice, and exclaims he will use magic, while admitting that even though Gilbert may find he's not the same as he was. To this, Gilbert responds really now with a skeptical expression. Seeing him, Leold internalizes that in the game, Leold can use both sword and magic, and says, no way he won't take advantage of that. Gilbert launches a powerful attack causing explosive impacts. While he looks shocked by the sudden intensity, Leold raises his hand defensively with a shocked expression as a powerful magical effect explodes around him. Gilbert launches yet another powerful counterattack with magical energy swirling around him. Noticing that Leold was able to erase his spell, he says, well done, young master, as he didn't know Leold had the skill to use chantless magic. Suddenly, Gilbert uses an uppercut, as he comments, but it's not strong enough to even kill an insect, and impacts Leold. As he gets overwhelmed by the hits, and realizes how strong he is, and why this is Gilbert's legendary expertise. With that, Leold is sent flying away in the distance. Seeing which, Gilbert asks why he chose to use magic as well, and Leold admits with a frustrated expression, because he thought it was the only way he had a chance of winning. He explains, noting that using sword and magic together is a good idea. However, he does not have the necessary skill for it yet. He also explains that Barbarat did tell him the fundamentals were important. As it is, the basics are the most important. While sitting on the ground, Leold reflects with a slight embarrassment that haste makes waste. Gilbert assures that Leold will slowly and steadily grow into a splendid person, and asks not to fret. To this, Leold admits that he is so strong and that he became a little impatient because of it, but Gilbert questions what he is saying. He comments that if Leold keeps getting stronger at this pace, soon he will not be able to hold a candle to them, as he advises having more confidence in himself. Hearing this, Leold reflects on how someone has not only seen how hard he has worked, but has acknowledged him for it. He expresses that he never expected something would make him so happy. So he declares that he has no choice but to live up to Gilbert's expectations, and requests one more round. Hearing this, Gilbert sends him flying with another uppercut, feeling which he exclaims that he still has a long way to go. 2 weeks later, Leold reacts with shock upon hearing that Barbarat's unit was wiped out. He slams on the table and asks if Barbarat is okay. Gilbert explains that he was wounded and is currently being treated. Hearing this, Leold expresses disbelief, stating that Barbarat is the strongest swordsman in all of Zeet. To this, Gilbert mentions that they were up against Thave Wolf Fang. Hearing which, Leold recalls that Wolf Fangs are the noble thieves band led by Zex, who Sieg has a losing event against in Destiny 48. He notes that Sieg is supposed to lose to Zex just after the skirmish with Zeet's Knight's Order. The Knights failing means the story is progressing according to the game, but expresses uncertainty about what might come next. He acknowledges that he is currently on an unknown route involving Leold, and observes that new characters like Barbarat and Isabel have appeared, making the future unpredictable. But being under Saintess Sylvia's surveillance leaves him increasingly unsure about what actions might lead to a bad end, which is why he resolves to be much more careful going forward. As their training rages on, he questions what is happening and reacts to the commotion. Suddenly, he turns back and exclaims in recognition of something, as he exclaims in shock, recognizing a wyvern flying in towards them fast. Seeing the gigantic creature flying in, They exclaim in alarm that it is a wyvern. Leold wonders why it would appear from the capital, and begins to ask what the knights are doing, but then stops abruptly in surprise, while Gilbert focuses on it completely. He looks at the creature and steps on the ground hard, as he remarks dismissively, calling it a mere lizard. Soon, he flies towards it, kicks it in the stomach and declares that the intruder should know whose territory they have dared to enter. After this, he lands back dramatically, as he proclaims that this is Zeet, the land ruled by the Harvest family. Seeing which, Leold reflects on Gilbert's true strength and mentions that he has just witnessed a real battle which was so tense. He acknowledges that not only is this world populated by strong players like Gilbert, and that he must contend with large monsters like this, it is no exaggeration to say that death lurks around every corner in this world. He becomes startled and exclaims in alarm. Soon, a horseman comes and delivers a message, stating that while the subjugation squad was dealing with the wyverns, 3 of them managed to escape. As he explains that after running wild in the city, the wyverns began heading toward them. Leold asks in panic if there are 2 more wyvern. He recalls that the monsters caused chaos in the city and questions how many people were affected, and sees the wyverns approaching and announces their arrival. Meanwhile, Gilbert observes the situation silently, with a dismissive sound of acknowledgement as he gets ready for the fight. As Gilbert flies up and kicks yet another wyvern, Leold watches the fight and comments on the speed of yet another instant kill. He reacts in shock, realizing that now there is only 1 wyvern left, which has arrived close, so he cries out in pain, overwhelmed by the situation, and gets attacked by the monster. He becomes frozen in fear, stating that he cannot move and asks if this is the end. He admits that he is scared and wonders if he will die here. As the wyvern flies in for the final kill, he resigns himself to what seems like the end but is suddenly surprised by something unexpected. Soon, Shiria and Isabel express fear and desperation, as Shiria gets grabbed by the last remaining wyvern. Seeing this, Isabel shouts that attacking while she is present was a mistake, and declares her intention to assist Shiria immediately. A sense of urgency permeates as she comments on the overwhelming wind pressure. Immediately, Shiria cries out for her grandfather to save him. Seeing this, Leold grimly notes that at this rate, she will get eaten by the monster, while Gilbert comments that the lizard is fleeing toward the border, and instructions are to be issued to head to the city to assess damage and aid the injured. But Leold protests by asking what he is trying to say, as they have to save Shiria, and they will chase Wyvern and she might die. To this, Gilbert replies that they will not. He cites his duty to protect the people as members of the Harvest family. He takes a pause and acknowledges Sharia's intelligence and understanding of her position. To this, Leold expresses a desire to escape, fearing death and wants to run away as soon as possible. But he wonders what he will do if they witness Sharia's tragic fate. As Gilbert decides to entrust responsibilities to Isabel, Leold contemplates the pain of seeing grief over Sharia, and questions if Isabel would regret her decisions for ages, while she assures her understanding and commitment to take care. Leold resolves that he does not want a bad end like that. He knows that Sharia always helped him, and even if she did not like it, she came all the way out here to do so, and recalls that she is a normal and sweet girl who gave him water when he collapsed, which makes him believe that her life should not be lost in a place like this. He wonders how he could ever live with himself if he went to help the people while just letting her die. He resolves to save her no matter what, as he thinks his existence here is meaningless if he cannot, so he shouts that they will save Sharia right away, hearing which Gilbert and Isabel are shocked. He resolves that he will use all of his power as much as he can. He states that he will aim for the head, but admits that he cannot fight like Gilbert does. Leold observes that he is good at lightning magic. As he aims up at the sky, he thinks that if he uses magic, he will shoot it down with one strike. With that, he channels lightning and shouts on the top of his lungs. In the distance, the wyvern screeches as it flies away, but gets struck by the thunderbolt from above, and with that it releases captive Sharia and she falls down. Soon she is grabbed by Gilbert, as she asks if her grandpa is okay. She apologizes, saying he must have been so scared, and says she is sorry. Sharia hugs her grandpa and admits she thought she was going to die, who apologizes to Sharia, saying it is all his fault. Seeing this, Leold comments that he is alive. He falls flat on the ground and says he did it with relief. He expresses relief that they were both okay and says his legs just gave out, and asks Leold to have his deepest gratitude, while Sharia explains that she only did what was natural. Seeing this, Leold states that he is a noble and thus has a duty to act as a model citizen, and comments that is what they mean by noblesse oblige. Finally, Leold expresses that he feels like he finally fulfilled a noble's duty, while that this is only once so far, hearing which Gilbert is surprised. He tells them to cut it out already and just see Sharia, to which Isabel responds that she shall nurse him. Seeing her, he calls out to Isabel and remarks that it was splendid. He asks not to be teased too much and points out how exhausted he is after that, as magic sure is tiring. But he expresses relief that everyone is okay, and states that everyone is still alive as they look out to the dusking sun. This incident occurred because the wyvern's nesting was discovered too late, as there is still some concern about why the wyverns would nest so close to human settlements. But it is fortunate that there were no casualties. Sylvia thinks she cannot believe it and wonders if Leold Harvest defeat a wyvern and even saved a maid. She wonders if he really did that. Referring to the infamous golden pig, she believes that Isabel would never provide a false report and does not think there is any chance Isabel betrayed her either. Sylvia reflects that people do not change easily, believing they cannot. She concludes she truly believes so, and thinks Leold might have changed regardless. She has observed many individuals as a royal but wonders if they are mistaken, so she feels the need to meet him, just to ensure her beliefs are correct. With this, she gets excited and declares she will soon judge Leold Harvest and tells him to wait for her. After a while, Leold narrates that he has been digging for a long time. Barbarat asks Leold if he has found anything, to which he states there does not seem to be water in that location. He narrates that they are currently searching for water sources in Zeet. He recalls that they began this effort a few days ago, starting with investigating the damage caused by the wyvern attack in Zeet City, as Gilbert asks Leold if this is his first time in the center of Zeet. To this Leold excitedly replies, yes. He narrates that Zeet was once an important border city but has seen decline after past wars, as he comments that it is smaller but still a nice and lively city. He expresses his desire to purchase one item, to which the vendor responds with gratitude for the business. Having eaten it, he remarks that the item is very good, and the vendor mentions not seeing him around nearby, to which Leold comments hearing about a wyvern appearing nearby and asks if everything is alright. The vendor explains that cattle outside the city were attacked, but the knights have been working hard to ensure everyone inside remains safe and sound. Hearing this, Leold thinks that she must be talking about Barbarat and his men, and asks if she had any problems lately. Hearing the vendor, he guesses that water might be an issue. The lady explains that the sun has been scorching lately, causing the water supply to visibly decline as they fear survival might be impossible if a drought occurs. Hearing which he acknowledges that the situation sounds problematic. Leold narrates, never mind the lack of drinking water or water for other daily needs, but if the lack of water for farming could harm the city's economy, as he observes that while there is an understanding of hygiene, waste water cannot be treated, and worries that contaminated water could spread disease, while there has been disputes over water sources have sparked many wars in the past, and believes this should be resolved as soon as possible. As Leold acknowledges the information and expresses gratitude, someone recognizes him and asks if he is the Golden Piggy. While it shocks the lady, someone expresses concern, saying that if the Golden Piggy is now their lord, it means the country has abandoned them. As another describes the lord as a corrupt noble expelled from the capital, and worries about the potential exploitation they might face. The group declares that Zeet is their city and tells him he does not belong there. Voices from the past echo in his mind, urging him to leave, as he realizes that everyone hates Leold and he remembers the event from that. He reflects on how he is avoided and hated, whether at the academy or in Zeet, as he wonders what he must do to be forgiven. Someone angrily orders him to leave, calling him a pest, and throws stones at him. As they demand his departure and insult him, Sharia yells for everyone to stop, but he tells Sharia to stay away, struggling with his emotions, as stones get flung towards him. To this, the crowd ask if he thought they would simply submit because he is a noble, and warns him that they will not let him get away with this easily next time. Soon, Gilbert checks on the young master, asking if he is okay. Leold expresses relief that no one was hurt and suggests they return home, as their presence might cause further disturbance. Seeing them leave, the crowd celebrates their success in chasing him out and tells him to stay away. After a while, he admits that the situation was troubling. He emphasizes the urgency of addressing the water shortage and suggests consulting Barbarat for a solution. To this, Gilbert admits that he is certain that the Knight's Order is already aware of the issue, to which Leold agrees and resolves to act immediately. Then, Gilbert wonders if they could just use water and earth magic, and offers to assist with search magic, but Leold laments that they are all awful. Suddenly, he calls out Shiria's name, struggling to express himself. She acknowledges the truth in the rumors about him and admits that she initially thought she believed them as well. But she recalls how, despite being scared of being attacked himself, Leold saved her. She compliments that Leold does his very best to reform himself with all his heart, and yet, she says that they are so awful, and she feels so sorry for him. With tears in her eyes, she believes that everyone just assumes the worst of him and admits that they go too far, just hurting him without a care. Shiria calls out in frustration, as she keeps crying. Seeing her behavior, Leold reflects that she used to be so scared of him, but notes that now she is crying for his sake, for which he thanks her. He says he is honestly happy that she worries for him, and declares that he will be the golden piggy to society for the rest of his life. He states that he does not blame the villagers for anything, and admits that the fault is all his. He confesses that he never even tried to learn of Zeet's issue before, and remarks that the previous lord of the land had not done anything for the people, even if they were beset by war or famine. He internalizes that he has just been worried about himself and not wanting to die, so he resolves that now, as a lord, he must prioritize the people above himself. After a while, someone acknowledges the water problem and expresses amusement. He sits in front of Barbarat and apologizes for asking, while he is still busy with the wyvern cleanup, and mentions that the city's water reserves are drying up, so he would like to ask the knights to help. To this, Barbarat expresses concern for the people as well and suggests starting the search tomorrow. Leold agrees that the sooner they begin the better, and adds that he will come with them too, to which Barbarat asks if he will come in person. Leold replies that, of course, as he acknowledges that he might not be able to help much, but insists that even if it is just digging holes or doing odd jobs, he wants to do something for Zeet's people. Hearing this, Barbarat responds that they would love to have him join. To this, Gilbert apologizes, saying they have some business to attend to tomorrow, to which Leold replies that it is fine, and that he can do it by himself. Then, Isabel confirms that she can leave for her vacation tomorrow as planned. She asks if they are ready to travel, and another confirms. Hearing this, Leold answers in a yes, and asks if they are all ready to travel, to which she remarks suggestively, saying that it is clear if he knows what she means, sending shocks to Barbarat. Then, Leold asks what is wrong, and she replies that it is nothing and hesitates further. After a while, he narrates that they set out on their expedition to find water. However, Barbarat exclaims that there is nothing there. He apologizes, saying that he is really sorry they have not found any water yet, whilst he narrates that the lineup consists of just him. But Barbarat reassures him not to worry, as he is working hard searching for them. And then there is an old knight, who comments that this was always a long shot, and a new squire who compliments good work there to the Duke. Leold narrates that their search was simple and straightforward, as the group dug holes, searching for water, and the process involves rinse and repeat. If they find anything, they will check all kinds of things. That includes checking if the permeability of the ground is suitable to draw water, but they have not found a single drop of water yet. They have already dug 5 holes today, and that is very hard, so he wonders if this is really an Eroge, as he does not see anything Eroge-like here. He says they have already dug 5 holes today, and it is extremely hard. He adds that even a pig would dry up. He questions if it is really an Eroge, as he does not see anything Eroge-like there. To this, the squire comments that they should just rely on the Duke's magic, and the old knight wonders if they can rely on Duke's magic, hearing which Barbarat yells at the others to be quiet. And Leold apologizes for making them work so hard for no gain. Hearing which Barbarat is surprised. With a big smile, Leold says they should do their best at the next one as well. Next, they began digging for days on end. They dug, searched, and went back to digging. But no matter how hard they searched, they did not find any water. He observes that it is already late today. 1 week later, someone mentions they dug a lot today as well. They rest for a while, and say they have covered a lot of ground today, huffing and panting beside the hole. Again, Leold apologizes for making them work so hard, and reassures them that this is part of their important duties, to which Barbarat thanks him for saying that. Barbarat kneels down and remarks that the soil feels unlike anything they have dug before, to which Leold happily agrees. He explains that when digging in this area, the soil has a particular color and smell, and adds that it feels heavier and heavier, though he is unsure if it is just his imagination, to which Leold offers to check again. He comments that Barbarat surprisingly has a lot of backbone. To this, Barbarat mentions that it is already getting dark, and expresses confidence that they will find water tomorrow, to which Leold replies in agreement. With this, they leave the hole for that day and move back. But on the way, the shovels fall and they notice something alarming. The next day, Leold exclaims in shock, asking what happened there, as he observes that the hole they dug has been filled back in. As they get closer, he complains about the smell, identifying it as manure. Seeing this, the old knight yells that somebody is messing with them and questions who would do such a thing, to which the squire suspects it has to be the townsfolk. Then, Barbarat wonders why they would do something so meaningless, and Leold realizes that he was naive. He reflects that he did not think they hated him so much. He thought that the reason they threw stones at him was because they lost control of their emotions for a moment. But now, he believes this harassment might continue forever, and concludes that the water issue will not resolve itself if he just sits idly. He knows he cannot let this get to him for the sake of the people, so he apologizes, saying it is most likely his fault, but explains that hunting for the culprit will not change anything. As he pleads them to understand, he asks for help again emotionally. To this, Barbarat remarks that no matter how much others hate Leold, they have gone too far this time, and decides to dig the hole again, and offers to find more shovels. The old knight smilingly comments, of course, as he could not stand it if all his hard work over the past week amounted to nothing. Hearing this, Barbarat expresses that he feels the same way as him and remarks that he is silly. To this, Leold's eyes widen with delight, and decides they will succeed this time, to which all of them agree. One remarks that X stinks and says that the smell suits him, to which another agrees. Just then, someone shouts for water upon noticing something. Soon, Barbarat looks to his back, and Leold exclaims how stinky this is, but Barbarat calls him as they exclaim that they found water. The squire says they can achieve things when they try and celebrate their success. Hearing this, Leold reacts with excitement and amazement. He comments that the hard work was worth it, as he acknowledges that they found it because everyone worked together. Finally, he looks up at the scorching sun and realizes that they really did it. After a while, they mention that the water still needs to be tested thoroughly, but it seems fit for use. Leold says it was worth all the trouble, and it will make Zeet's water supply more secure, to which they agree and express gratitude for the hard work. In response, he thanks everyone as well, and hopes that the citizens will calm down a little now, but mentions that there is still more to do for the city, just when someone interjects with urgency. Finally, they see Sharia standing quiet. She asks why. She asks again why he works so hard, and Leold answers that he works hard because losing access to water would trouble the people. As Sharia is surprised, she urges that the people hurt him and threw stones at him. The people told him, their lord, to leave, which she finds unbelievable. She adds that the same happened to the others too. She comments that he just sat there smiling while others mocked him. So she asks why he tries so hard to get along with people who hate him. Hearing this, Leold answers that they are knights, and explains that they are simply answering the expectations of the suffering people of Zeet, as he asks if Sharia can understand when it is put that way. To this, Sharia gets even more frustrated, and wonders why, even though they treated him so horribly. She asks why he does not get mad. She argues that people should not be allowed to hurt others for no reason, and insists that it cannot be overlooked as fellow humans, and states that they treated Leold so horribly. She asks why he does not understand, and why he is not angry. To this, Leold solemnly replies that he has his reasons. He admits that he is guilty of crimes, to which Sharia appears surprised. He states that he cannot erase the past, and adds that even if he repays for his crimes for the rest of his life, it would probably not be enough to make up for them. But explains that he understood something when she came to Zeet, which is that people can start over, no matter how many times they fail, as he tells Sharia that nothing good would come from repaying hate with hate. He concludes that it would not solve any of Zeet's problems, and reveals that his goal was never to arrest people, but to solve the lack of water, as he mentions that he saw the people suffer from it. He says that he just wants to do what he thinks is the right thing to do, and asks if that is so bad. To this, Sharia gets convinced and says it is not. He declares that he will keep doing what he thinks is the right thing to do as their lord, and states that the only thing he can do now is solve what problems he can, one at a time. He states that he wants to do his best to solve whatever he can, even if they hate or shun him, and adds that he thought that might trouble all of them. Sharia says that she still thinks it is wrong of them to hurt people, as she believes that he is being too kind. She admits that it might make her a slightly bad person for feeling that way, and confesses that she does not fully understand what he is trying to do, but she can see he is trying to be a better person. She tells him that he saved her life, and so she pleads with him to let her do whatever she can to help him. Hearing this, Leold assures her that everything will go well, as long as she keeps those feelings in mind and works hard, especially if it is for the sake of others. Leold says that he is sure Sharia will grow into a wonderful woman, to which she asks if she can be as wonderful as Isabel, and he agrees. He reflects that he only has his hands full focusing on one thing at a time, so he resolves to become the person he wants to be, one step at a time, and looks forward to a future day. To this, Sharia declares that she will do her best, working harder than she ever has, and Gilbert is happy hearing this. Suddenly, seeing Isabel, Leold comments on her elusive nature, saying she should wear a bell, to which she agrees and thanks him for the compliment. She replies that she simply came to inform them that dinner is prepared, to which Barbarat blushes fiercely, while the others are confused. As they grab dinner, Leold narrates that afterwards, just when he started to suspect something was up with Barbarat, Barbarat proposes to her, as he exclaims that he is in awe, marveling at her beauty, to which she responds by describing herself as an average slightly omnipotent maid. He proceeds to calling her a true beauty and a goddess, and remarks that she is actually quite dangerous, to which Isabel acknowledges Barbarat's way with words. And Leold narrates that it seems some kind of flag has been fiercely raised. After a while in narration, 1 week before Leold, and the knights found the water vein, in Vessel Palace in the capital of Algabane. Isabel kneels down to Sylvia, who wonders aloud why something is so different. She comments that her Darjeeling tea is exceptional, and praises her for an excellent job as an omnipotent maid. To this, Isabel expresses her honor to Sylvia Algabane. Sylvia states they have summoned her for one reason, to which Isabel presumes it is about Leold Harvest. Sylvia confirms the truthfulness of the report, that Leold has subjected himself to intense training, calling it a diet, and that she recounts Leold saving a maid from wyverns, stopping their attack on Zeet, and working on solving Zeet's water issue. To this, Isabel acknowledges that is all true, and remarks that he is nothing like the rumors suggest, and Leold now seriously tries to fulfill his duties as a noble. Hearing this, Sylvia reflects on Leold's desire to lead a respectable life, and questions the validity of calling him the Golden Piggy. She believes that for now, this assessment is correct, and concludes that Leold is not the source of the disturbance she senses from Zeet, to which she asks if she is saying Sylvia made a mistake. Isabel exclaims, stating that Sylvia would never make such a mistake, to which Sylvia agrees. She recalls herself as the Saintess Sylvia, who identifies herself as the maker of the divine barrier which protects their land. In narration, she describes the divine barrier as one of the most powerful divine spells, passed down through the royal lineage for generations, and explains that at its most powerful, the barrier can protect every inch of the country from all manner of magic and monsters, and explains that the only reason why Algabane, a middling country, has persisted through time and war is due to its maintained influence. Thanks to the power possessed by these protectors, the royal family is extremely popular with the people, as she reflects that the current inheritor of the ability has already defended the country numerous times, and this is why they are known as the Saintess. But she senses looming shadows from Zeet, his territory, and recalls knowing Leold, who was described as the very definition of unscrupulous, and had been banished there, which is why she dispatched Isabel to investigate. But it appears that Leold appears to be innocent. Yet, she admits that the nasty feeling they sense from Zeet only seems to grow, and she wonders how he will respond when the threat becomes apparent, and smilingly comments truly that Leold is an interesting person. Finally, she expresses a desire to confirm many things about both Zeet and her in person. Hearing this, Isabel urges Sylvia to show restraint, while she knows Sylvia is the very cornerstone of the nation's defense, and Sylvia agrees in acknowledgement. She knows that she has fully devoted her body and soul to the country, Algabane, and states that there is no way she could abandon her duty and leave so easily, but knows that despite Leold's banishment, he is strolling around as free as can be. While she, who is the Saintess, laments that she is trapped like a bird in a cage, her freedom stolen for the sake of the people. Which is why she wonders how it would feel to leave the capital, to touch the earth with her feet, and to let the wind wash over her body. She imagines how the sky and colorful flowers would look and how the air would smell when surrounded by nature. Sylvia expresses with certainty that someday she will be free, and she is sure that the air would smell sweet, and that the sight must be astonishing. But she finds the situation to be detestable and unfair. Stating that they made her, the Saintess, Sylvia Algabane, feel this way, it is just unforgivable. After a while, Isabel asks if something is wrong, to which the response given is ambiguous, suggesting that no one knows. Sylvia inquires what they should do, hearing which Isabel is confused. Sylvia reveals that she will never calm down unless she meets Leold at least once, just when she calls out to Isabel. Finally, she instructs Isabel to continue her investigation, and while doing so, to bring Leold to her. Isabel affirms her obedience, stating that her word is her command. Back at the present, someone exclaims, "Thank goodness, they managed to secure Zeet's water supply." To this, Barbarat agrees while saying they can now return to their training, to which Leold asks if this means they will begin immediately, but meant it as a joke. But they approve immediately, seeing which Leold reacts with confusion, and they comment that since the young master has said it, they will both come at him. Out of nowhere, Gilbert punches him and sends him flying, to which he gets up and acknowledges that he still has a long way to go. As he is being pulled back up, he observes that he can now discern what the two of them are doing most of the time, and Gilbert replies, "So it seems." He states his surprise when a spell was fired at him while he was charging, adding that Leold has worked hard independently. To this, Leold affirms his statement and mentions feeling that he has nearly mastered the lightning spell, but admits adding that grand magic is currently beyond him, and that he lacks sufficient mana and needs to find another source. Hearing this, they react with amusement, and calls grand magic wonderful and priceless, to which Leold questions why that is funny. To this, Gilbert explains that very few people in the world are capable of grand magic. He observes that the young master's growth and ambition appear endless, to which Leold asks if this means he has grown a little. To this, Gilbert answers that something good happened. He recalls that the culprit who caused trouble while digging a hole came to apologize, accompanied by his father because he is still a kid. Barbarat expresses his disbelief and gratitude that they came to see him, and remarks that he is glad to hear that. He mentions hearing from Shiria, who indicated that more stores have opened since the water issue was resolved, and adds that reports of conflicts have also decreased. He expresses confidence that Zeet will see significant change with better public order and necessities. Finally, he acknowledges that there are still problems, but he expresses a strong desire to make the land as pleasant as possible, to which Leold hopes that the two of them will continue to assist him. He requests the two of them, to which they assure him that they will gladly help. Barbarat declares that he will work hard as well as share his aspiration to see the land fully developed again. With this, they conclude with agreement and determination, saying it is time to move forward. While in narration on the night of the new moon, something begins with chomping noises, as those who oppose such a bright future are being created. Finally, it is stated that the goblin horde is running towards them in droves, leaving dead bodies on their path. After a while, a fight scene with the goblins breaks out, as someone shouts, "Here they come," with Gilbert fighting in the front row. To this, Leold says he will back them up, and casts magical flares at them to defend. Someone praises Leold for a great assist, to which he narrates that they are currently on their way to Zeet Fortress to try and halt the monster panic. He explains that it all started yesterday when Barbarat's two subordinates, who helped him find water, showed up at the mansion, when someone questions if this is a monster panic. As they sit, someone expresses that fighting could break out at any minute, and they have come to seek help from the Harvest family in suppressing it. Hearing this, Leold asks what a monster panic is, and Gilbert prepares his answer. He explains that a monster panic happens when monsters starve, form large groups, and attack indiscriminately. Leold narrates that whether the monsters encounter their own species or superior monsters, they still attack, and states that humans are no exception either, and that a monster army, fueled by hunger and thirst, leaves nothing but death and destruction in its wake. He concludes by saying that this is what a monster panic is, hearing which Leold questions if panic is not such a mild term for it. He questions why such an extreme event was not in the game, and wonders if they are headed for Zeet. In response, Gilbert says yes, and believes they will most likely reach Zeet Fortress by tomorrow night, while he mentions that Captain Barbarat has already departed for the fortress to be ready for the attack. He explains that the Royal Knight Order has also been dispatched to provide support but will arrive 3 days from now at the earliest. He observes that they cannot hold out for so long, hearing which Leold turns back in surprise. Gilbert states that it is said the monster panic can last up to a week, and at worst, includes tens of thousands of monsters, and adds that their garrison only has about 300 knights. Hearing this, Leold questions why something like this happens just when they finally solve the water shortage, as he asserts that they have to stop the advance of those monsters. He orders Gilbert to send a message to the surrounding cities, asking each knight's order for support and to evacuate the citizens, to which Gilbert responds affirmatively. With determination in his eyes, Leold declares that the Harvest family, the Lords of Zeet, shall do their best to help quell the monster panic. He adds that he personally wants to help as best he can, asking to be escorted to the fortress, to which the guests respond by thanking Leold. He narrates that in the game, Leold dies regardless of the route taken, so he wonders if the system, the world itself, is trying to kill them, being all too willing to sacrifice the people of Zeet in the process. He acknowledges that if everyone is in danger, it is their fault, and that they cannot think about such things now. Internally, he declares that they will not roll over and die, and vows not to let anyone else die either. After a while, as they stroll around in the forest, Leold asks if the guest's leg is alright. In response, the boy apologizes, saying the injury happened because Leold protected them, to which Leold reassures them not to worry about it, stating that it is not important right now, as that seemed to be the last of them. He reflects that there were only about 10 enemies, yet they were incredibly tough. To this, the boy describes how the enemies relentlessly targeted their vitals, calling it the creepiest thing he has ever experienced. The other boy replies that since goblins usually attack in large groups, it bothers them that the goblins attacked individually, means that the goblins were bizarrely strong, and outmuscled them so many times. He suggests that the goblins must now see them as nothing more than rations, because even goblins, some of the weakest monsters, now pose as formidable foes. Hearing this, Leold narrates that the crazed monsters will only grow stronger as they starve, and mentions the daunting numbers the monsters will attack with. But he realizes that a mere 10 enemies were a tough fight, so the main battle will be even fiercer. Then, Leold encourages them to get going and expresses discomfort, saying they need to reach the fort as soon as possible. But the man who is hurt groans in pain, hearing which they ask if he is alright. He reassures that he is not soft enough to need a boy like them worrying about them. Suddenly, Leold notices something. Seeing another goblin attack the man on his flank, Leold yells at him to watch out. In the nick of time, he manages to defend the man and takes the goblin out, seeing which the boy and Gilbert get stunned and ask if he is okay. To this, the man comments that he owes Leold one for this rescue. Then, a bloody sword falls on the ground with a clang noise. Leold cannot believe what he just did, as he contemplates looking at his hand and comments what the hell, while he narrates and describes the sensation of stabbing through flesh and the ringing of the blade hitting bone. As he observes the blood, he notices the thick scent of blood on their hands, and with shock realizes that he killed the enemy, which freaks him out. Soon, he starts throwing up on the ground, seeing which Gilbert is concerned for him. Leold understands that this situation is nothing like it was with the wyvern. He wonders if life is really taken away so easily. He says he could feel himself robbing it of its life, hearing which they urge him to calm down, while he knows he never intended to kill it. Finally, the man jolts him back to reality, and urges him to get a grip. He thanks him for saving them and apologizes. He reminds him that he only came because of his sense of responsibility as a noble, and that taking lives is not a good reason. But he acknowledges that he was saved and states it as a fact. To this, Gilbert warns him that they are headed into a conflict covered in death, and says they have no choice but to kill or be killed, even if it is cruel to say. Hearing which Leold questions why he cannot believe in the idea of defending and saving people right now. Internally, he declares that he never wanted to do this, and that he never wanted to kill, nor does he want to be killed. With this he wipes his tears away, and quietly affirms his resolve, as he expresses his desire to live emotionally. With concern, Gilbert calls him out. Leold apologizes for worrying them and assures them that he is okay now, and adds that they must hurry to the fort as they don't have much time. He reflects on how he cannot forgive himself for taking a life, even if it was an enemy, even as he covers the guild with his sense of responsibility, but he is determined to move on. As he walks forward, they encounter the pile of corpses and goblins they have left behind. Then the boy points somewhere far, as he identifies the location as Zeet Fortress. As they reach the gate, they ask to see Captain Barbarot at once, and announces they have brought Duke Harvest, to which one of the guards tells the group to come with him. Just then, they all get shaken out, as Leold questions what the noise was, speculating if it was an earthquake. With this, he panics and fears they are too late. After a while, they start running forward in a hurry. Again, the boy points somewhere in the distance. Seeing what's happening, Leold shouts that the captains at the main gate have assembled a death squad. They see Barbarot's squad with their defenses present in front of the gate. Barbarot stands behind and looks serious as hell. Suddenly, the barrage of goblins rush towards the gate and hurt themselves trying to break in. Seeing this, Leold reacts in disbelief, questioning what is happening, as he wonders if this is what a monster panic feels like. He observes that they are piling up faster than expected, and now those scoundrels are trying to break down the main gate. He knows that if they make it inside, they are finished. Then, the guests stand behind him obediently, and state that it is time for them to fulfill their duties as knights, to which Leold asks what they mean. The boy asks Leold and Gilbert to stay safe, while the man expresses gratitude for everything they have done. Before Leold tries to stop them, they leave the scene, while Gilbert calls him out. He says there is nothing more they can do and suggests they withdraw from the place immediately. But Leold reacts and asks if he is suggesting abandoning everyone and running away, to which he answers and responds that is correct. But Leold protests and explains that Barbarot and the others are risking their lives for the fight. To this, Gilbert clarifies it is only a matter of time before the fortress falls, and that everyone understands the situation and is trying to buy time for the people to evacuate. Hearing this, Leold asks who would acknowledge him as a lord if he abandoned everyone and fled, so he declares that he will stand and fight alongside Barbarot and the others, and he won't let them die alone. Gilbert responds that they are facing a disaster, and in times of disaster, a lord's duty is to look beyond the immediate crisis and prepare the rebuilding that will follow, as the weight of every life in Zeet, not just those here, rests upon his shoulders, and everyone understands that, and because of that they are trying to buy the time for the people to evacuate. He implores Leold to embrace his duty as a leader, and states that the future of their people depends on it, but Leold knows that already and argues that it is not right to let the people die. To this, Gilbert insists that every second they delay is a second lost, as he believes there must be a way to ensure safety by any means necessary, and Leold also thinks there has to be something that they can do. Soon, Leold tries to encourage himself to think and remember, as he recalls that he has been through this before and that the answer must be within his memories. He knows that he has beaten this world before, and should know all the answers. Soon he pauses and tells himself to wait as if he remembers something. He remembers something and asks himself how he could forget. Leold identifies his unique ability as mana sharing. He narrates that mana sharing is an ability that allows one to receive energy from a consenting partner and convert it into vast amounts of magical power. While the skill is so dangerous that it enabled Leold to rise to the level of a boss character, so he was trying to avoid thinking about the skill to prevent adding more death flag. As he remembers this, he begs Gilbert, emphasizing that he understands the importance of a lord's duties. But he acknowledges that if he does not fight there, and if he simply runs away, he will never be able to forgive himself, not as a human being or as anything else. Hearing this, Gilbert accepts his decision but warns that if the worst comes, then they must be prepared, to which Leold expresses gratitude to him. Meanwhile, Barbarot menacingly addresses the warriors of Zeet, calling them valiant elites and reminding them that they are the shield of the people, as he orders them to survive, emphasizing that survival is imperative as the people of Zeet stand behind them, which makes them their shield and them theirs. With this, Leold calls Barbarot and every last one of them courageous warriors. He stands atop and declares himself as Leold of House Harvest, the golden pig whom everyone knows and hates. He yells at the top of his lungs that by his own hands and his own magic, he vows to drive the monsters back and save Zeet, as he pleads for a small chance to prove himself and asks others to pray for his worthiness to borrow their strength. The army questions the golden pig's abilities, expressing disbelief that he could use magic and wondering if it is even possible. To this, the boy offers their power as well, pleading to help Leold, and the man shouts their support for Leold. As they raise their hands, Leold agrees that even if their contribution is small, it might still lead to victory. With this, their mana are being channeled towards Leold, who confirms that the power is flowing as they are linked. He explains, drawing on everyone's life force is converting it into magic with utmost speed and efficiency. But he gets overloaded and struggles to breathe, feeling as though his body is on fire and unable to handle the intensity. With that, he recognizes that this is the power of mana sharing, to which Gilbert warns him to stop, insisting that he is going to kill himself. Despite that, Leold raises his arm, as he resolves not to let this kill him and says he wants to survive too, just like everyone else, and that he feels it, everyone's hopes and their fears. He observes confusion, anger, and sorrow, and feels fear and despair. As he struggles to keep up, he asserts that hope remains. He feels pain everywhere, and admits that he is scared as he tells himself not to give in and to get up and fight. Leold questions, who will become the protagonist if he does not, as the final attack gets charged out from his body. Soon, he yells out lightning strike attack loudly, and with that, a gigantic surge of lightning hit the castle from high above the sky. The army watches from inside the gate as they see the goblins get hit and electrocute for the last time. As he sees the goblins get burnt to crisps, he wonders if that did it. Someone notes that there is no sign of the enemy, and Barbarat exclaims that they did it. The army reacts by celebrating and declares that Zeke is saved and that they made it out alive. To this, Barbarat acknowledges that Leold saved them, while he reflects on the risky gamble and the effectiveness of a one-shot attack. He internalizes that mana sharing is a dangerous power, and it seems that too much energy was taken, leaving everyone barely able to stand. But suddenly he looks up in confusion and sees another horde coming in from the distance. In response, he shouts asking how any of them could have survived that, as he realizes there are still more of them. Barbarat then commands all troops to hold their positions and prepare for battle. With fury, he takes one of them out cold-blooded. But just when Leold tries to help, he is pulled back by Gilbert, who asserts that they must fall back, but Leold insists they cannot. Surprisingly, he begins to describe a sound and wonders if more of them are coming. Soon, they hear a rumbling of horse hooves arriving from a distance. Someone commends the warriors of Zeke for fighting bravely and holding out until now. As Baynard Augustus arrives on horseback with his army, being the commander of the Knights of the Kingdom, he calls upon the loyal knights who have dedicated their swords to the service of Algavain, commanding them to cut down the foolish monsters, defiling their land and threatening their people, and orders them to show no mercy. Confidently, he gallops in the battlefield and takes one goblin out with a swing of his sword. Seeing him, Barbarat acknowledges the commander as he remarks on his incredible strength. The army exclaim their relief, stating that they are saved and that Zeke is finally safe, and adds that they were not abandoned after all. Seeing this, Leold expresses gratitude to the heavens and shares their happiness that Zeke and everyone are safe, saying which he collapses on the floor, while Gilbert pleads for him to stay with them. After a while in narration, 1 month has passed since the monster panic erupted. In the streets of Zeke, Leold reassures Gilbert, stating that he is okay now, but expresses concern that his appearance might cause another uproar, but reassures Gilbert, stating that he is sure people will no longer throw stones at him, and that his appearance has changed significantly, since he is so thin now and has lost over 20 pounds of it. To this, Gilbert expresses relief that Leold has made a full recovery. Soon, Leold remarks that it is good to see the city bustling with life again, and observes that Zeke seems even lovelier than before the attack. To this, Gilbert expresses gratitude, stating that they owe it all to him and the knights. Suddenly, a lady addresses Leold, asking if it is truly him. Seeing her, Leold realizes she is the vendor who sells apples, and expresses astonishment for recognizing him, to which she comments on the noticeable weight loss and tells him not to be silly. She explains that everyone was speaking about how he saved the town from the monsters and the water incident. Suddenly, people insist on giving something as a gift, urging the Leold to accept it. The lady comments that it is not much, but expresses gratitude, adding that the gift is a small token of appreciation for saving Zeke twice, and requests him to take the gift, for which Leold thanks her. Soon, another voice states that they have been waiting for him all this time, and the crowd calls out to Leold excitedly. They say it is Lord Leold and call out to him, which surprises him. Many of the crowd are in tears of happiness. A person hands him a flower and thanks him, and explains that the flowers are blooming now because of the water, and mentions the fishing is better than before. So they express gratitude for saving their farms from the monsters and say they are in his debt. With this, they cheer for Leold and express their thankfulness to Leold in response. Leold accepts the flower from the child and says he should be thanking all of them. With tears in his eyes, he gets all emotional and repeats that he should be thanking them. After a while, they travel in the carriage, where he thinks of how glad he is to have decided to return to Zeke. He narrates that he was unconscious for about a week, and the cause was reckless energy conversion from the shared mana and the large-scale magic he performed, so he was told that his internal organs, muscles, and nerves were severely damaged. But he survived, thanks to the healing magic of a mage who was sent to help, and when he woke up, he experienced terrible headaches, nausea, and pain throughout his body. He notes that the monster panic was repelled thanks to Baynard's elite guard, who defended Zeke Fort, and following their success, the kingdom's knights arrived to suppress the remaining threat, so he hopes he was of some help at least. Internally, he declares that under no circumstances can he use mana sharing again, as he acknowledges it could have cost his life or someone else's, and reflects that the risk was too great. Thinking of risk, he remarks that life is a struggle. He expresses regret, wishing he had been stronger and that things might have turned out differently. Leold also reflects on the importance of not being strong alone and the need to rely on others, as he thinks that if he had trained his body and mind more and learned to rely on the help of others, they could have achieved a different outcome. As he thinks, Gilbert watches him silently. He notes that the road of life is long and winding, and reminds him that the world is a vast and wondrous place, and asks if he already knows this. To this, Leold agrees and responds with gratitude, and soon he announces their arrival where someone cheers for Leold. Sheria exclaims that something incredible has happened, to which Leold asks her if she is alright. She says it is an invitation from the fourth princess to a celebration, and adds that he must tell her the truth about himself, which confuses Leold. He wonders what their intentions are, and questions why the king and Saintess Sylvia would summon him to the royal palace. After a while, he narrates the kingdom of Algavain, a Vesser royal castle, where he kneels in the royal audience chamber. The man grants him permission to rise and introduces himself as Leold Harvest, to which Sylvia thinks that he has been waiting for this moment. She resolves that she must learn the truth today, regardless of the cost. In narration, she reflects that the Leold she first met was a typical boy, called a child prodigy, with a bright future ahead of him that he never questioned. Having had his talent discovered at a young age, he was expected to have a promising future and his smile was brimming with hope. However, several years later, he had become so overweight that not even a trace of his former self remained, with his features having transformed into those of someone else. As he had a repulsive, vulgar look in his eyes, as he spoke in an ingratiating, cloying voice. Internally, she remarks that she has seen more people like that than she can count. She reflects that it is not possible for someone who has hit rock bottom to bounce back. There is no way they can change. So she concludes that such people must be desperate to return to their hedonistic lifestyle. She speculates that he wants to win glory on the battlefield to return to the capital, and accuses him of faking an honest act. With glittering eyes, Sylvia resolves that she wants to see all that lies within him and calls him Leold Harvest, while the man urges him to proceed. The king expresses his gladness at hearing about the young man's remarkable actions during the recent monster panic. To this, Leold humbly responds to the praise, stating that he is undeserving of it. Hearing this, Sylvia asks if she could ask something, and asks why he would risk his life to protect Zeet, hearing which surprises Leold. She states that the charges laid against him are well known to her and observes that being banished to Zeet cannot be an agreeable fate for him. She questions why, despite his current predicament, he chose to eradicate the monsters and implement measures to prevent further flooding. To this, Leold remarks that there is no atonement for his sins, not anymore, to which she acknowledges that his reaction is the expected one for someone in his position. The king addresses Leold, describing him as a former villain whose deeds were too vile to mention, and questions what change of heart has led to his current behavior. But he admits that his present actions are beyond his comprehension. Sylvia agrees with a statement, calling it the crux of the matter, as observes that the transformation in Leold is undeniable, declaring that he is, for all intents and purposes, a completely different man. She reflects because her initial assumption was that the troubles in Onseat were connected to the Golden Pig disaster. However, she acknowledges that the opposite has proven true, as Leold now seems intent on following a righteous path. Sylvia thinks that she has always taken pride in her ability to judge a man's character. Yet she admits her confusion regarding the situation, and expresses that she cannot rest until she uncovers what has caused such a change in Leold. In response, Leold confesses to having committed many terrible and inhumane acts, far more than anyone should bear, as he declares that he is ready to face any punishment deemed fit. Hearing which, Sylvia wonders if this is merely another deception, a false gesture of trust that will end in betrayal. She accuses him of simply begging for forgiveness with hollow apologies, and questions if he is hoping for a pardon. But she asks who could possibly believe such a thing, while Leold asserts that he desires no such thing. He declares that his place is as the Lord of Zeet, and states that he has already received his reward. Hearing this, the king asks for clarification. In response, Leold reflects on his time in Zeet, saying that getting to know its people has given him something valuable with their heartfelt expressions of gratitude. He states that, for the man he is today, the gratitude he has received is more than sufficient. He declares that he deserves execution and would have no grounds to object if it were to come to pass. but expresses a desire to secure the happiness and prosperity of Zete above all else, and humbly requests a stay of execution until that peace is achieved. He acknowledges that the burden of having the people of Zete believe he has abandoned them at such a critical time is something he cannot bear, which is why he implores the king to witness the man he has become and let that inform his judgment, as he humbly asks King Algavain for forgiveness. Hearing this, Sylvia compares himself to herself, as this is just how she is considered a saint. Internally, she asserts that the nature of a person will never change, claiming that it is impossible for people to change. She questions how they can claim that they have been reborn. She remarks on the sheer audacity of Leold's actions, and questions how he expects to be forgiven so easily. Finally, the king acknowledges the statement with understanding, and says that the words spoken to him are deeply imprinted in his heart, as he encourages to continue striving for excellence. With that, he mentions that following this, there will be a celebration held in the guest's honor, where the guest will be the guest of honor, and informs that his daughter expresses a desire to make the guest's acquaintance. Hearing this, Sylvia presents herself, and comments that it has been far too long, while internally, she knows she is not yet convinced. She wonders if the other is indeed the golden pig, and states that his true nature will inevitably reveal itself, and adds that when it does, it will be clear. She approaches Leold, and decides that they should proceed. After this, they are visiting the garden, where Leold wonders what she is thinking, and she asks him to follow her this way. While the letter states that Leold must tell him the truth about himself, Leold wonders what she knows about him and questions the truth written in the letter, wondering what it means. He thinks she is cute and damns himself for feeling this way, while he wonders if she is toying with him. Since she uses Isabel to investigate him, means she is obviously wary of him, but thinks that if he is sincere with her, surely she will trust him. Suddenly, he looks back and yells out who is there. Commander Baynard stands and greets him, saying it is good to see him still in one piece, for which Leold thanks him and comments that he managed. Again, someone calls out his name, and he looks back with a surprised expression. Out of nowhere, he recognizes Sieg in the garden, who is pleased to see him. Leold identifies him as the protagonist of the game he lives in, as Siegfried Exexia, known as Sieg to those familiar with him, who is a warrior with a blade that is matched only by his principles, as neither rank nor title sways his judgment, and injustice cannot hide from his gaze. He narrates that initially, many scorned him as self-righteous, a hypocrite wearing virtue like a mask, but later revealed that those very critics became his staunchest defenders, and in the end, he became a beacon of hope for all. He represents something lost in the real world, which is a life described as one lived without compromise or pretense. This is the hero he looked up to above all others, as he compares his presence to the sun, saying it illuminates the darkness in others' hearts. Excitedly, Sieg says that the tales about Leold standing at the heart of the monster crisis are true and calls it magnificent. Leold internalizes, since he was thrust into this world, he has been waiting for Sieg and has always admired him, and adds that he has been waiting to see him appear in front of him once again. In response, Leold says that victory belongs to every blade that fought beside him, and adds that their triumph came from the united strength of all knights. Hearing this, Sieg comments that he has transformed completely and grown into someone he barely recognizes. To this, Leold thinks that he must remember his place, and notes that Leold's hands are stained with crime. Though he wears Leold's face and name, he reflects that he has not actually earned the right to stand by Sieg's side. Calmly, he acknowledges that he has his own duty as Leold, and explains that until he has paid for every sin, he will keep marching forward, no matter the cost, hearing which shocks Sieg. Hearing this, Baynard asks if he is entering the tournament. He explains that the tournament is being held to appease the populace and establish who the strongest warrior is, to which Leold replies that he considers himself a sinner, who has no right to stand in the spotlight. Hearing this, Sieg is shocked and questions what Leold is talking about, and asserts that his actions have earned him this right more than anyone. To this, Leold remains silent in response. Baynard comments that the tournament approaches and advises Leold and Sieg to train hard, to which Sylvia asks if Leold is a little short on time. Seeing her, Baynard greets Princess Sylvia, expressing that it is always an honor, addressing her as His Highness. Baynard apologizes for the disruption, and says he shall not keep her any longer. Finally, Sieg leaves and wishes to await her return until they meet again. Then, Princess Sylvia asks if Leold is a friend from school, to which he responds that he admired him deeply, and has never met another soul who lives with such unwavering conviction. Leold silently reflects, wishing he could be more like Sieg. After a while, Sylvia informs them that the celebration hall is this way and invites Leold to proceed. Leold reflects that unlike the monster crisis, his death will not announce itself with obvious omens, while he believes the real danger lies in social death, isolation, loss of influence, and betrayal. Leold thinks that one misstep could drag down not just himself, but also everyone who has placed their faith in their cause, as Sylvia mentions that everyone has been eagerly awaiting his arrival and invites him to come forth. As he enters, Leold thinks that he needs to be even more careful. Suddenly, Sylvia welcomes the crowd and introduces Lord Leold Harvest as the individual responsible for suppressing the monster panic. Hearing this, the crowd inquires if the name mentioned was Leold, while another mocks him as the exiled Golden Pig. The crowd members accuse him of stealing credit from someone else and call him a shameful trash, while another sarcastically states that such behavior is just what they would expect from someone like him. Leold reflects that this scorn is about what he expected, while someone angrily calls him an insolent fool. Just then, someone greets Leold with exaggerated praise, claiming they never lost faith in him and always knew greatness flowed in his veins. Another woman says indeed, it is the power of the noble Harvest bloodline and only one of such lofty descent could achieve these feats. She asks to allow her to present her daughter and tells her to pay her respects to Leold, to which she replies that she is pleased to make his acquaintance. But Leold recognizes those eyes that hide daggers behind courtly smiles, and deems them sycophants wearing masks of adoration. Leold understands that they are all so transparent, measuring his worth while concealing sneers behind painted smiles. Out of nowhere, Sylvia catches his attention and asks Leold to excuse her. She asks would he grant her the pleasure of this dance, to which Leold replies that the honor would be his and extends his hand to take hers. He knows that the invitation letter was merely the surface and he must uncover her true motive, and thinks that he first needs to gauge her intention. While Sylvia comments how unfitting to wear such heavy thoughts at a celebration, hearing which Leold is surprised. He steps on the floor hard, to which she says his feelings are surprisingly easy to read, which surprises him more. He thinks there is no way she is trying to help him, as he wonders if she is trying to lower his guard and destroy him, to which she says, "Come now," such a fearsome expression does not suit him. She asks him to just let the music guide him. There is no need for perfect form. As she asks does he not think so as they dance, Leold wonders if she has seen through his disguise, as he thinks surely she must see him as nothing but a criminal wearing a stolen crown, but wonders if that is true then why is she dancing so happily with someone like him. He realizes that he cannot figure her out. As they dance, he knows he has no idea what she is thinking. After a while, Sylvia asks did he happen to notice the way they were looking at them, as their expressions were just strange. She adds what a marvelous surprise it is as he has proven himself quite the graceful dancer. To this, Leold replies that everyone was simply mesmerized by her highness, to which she says is that so. She asks could she trouble him to share his thoughts with her. Leold asks if her highness was wary of him all along, and says she suspected him of being someone who commits evil and brings misfortune. He confesses that she used Isabel to keep watch over his actions, and those words in her invitation. Finally, he asks that she must tell him the truth about herself. In response, Sylvia says that Leold is absolutely right, as his eyes pierced right through her. Observing her, Leold thinks that every single gesture radiates purpose and intent, as it feels as though she is peering into the very depths of his soul, which he recognizes as the true presence of Saintess Sylvia. He knows that to someone like her, he must bare his soul with complete sincerity. Leold finally asks to speak with absolute honesty. He says at first, his only thought was to escape his imminent death. But after encountering those who stood by him and coming to know Zeet and its people, his perspective transformed entirely. He says, instead of running away, he chose to press forward and truly live. However, the sins he has committed cannot be undone, as he says he believes redemption lies in the path he chooses to walk from here. Hearing this, she asks if these are truly his thoughts whole and sincere. To which he replies, "Of course, your highness," but Sylvia does not reply. Finally, she says she must apologize for having him monitored, as they needed to eliminate every possible element of uncertainty. Hearing this, Leold understands that just as his heart belongs to Zeet, Sylvia's devotion to their country runs equally deep. So he bows in fealty and asks her highness not to apologize. She says she must have been jealous of him and had not realized until now, to which he asks why him of all people. She says surely he must understand why, as she is bound as the bearer of the divine barrier. Hearing this, Leold realizes that the divine barrier can only be activated within the royal capital. She reveals that she is forever tethered to this place. Leold realizes that she has never glimpsed the world beyond the royal capital, and she never will until her sacred duty comes to an end. So he wonders if it is envy, which is such a simple word that fails to capture the depth of her burden. She says his freedom to roam wherever his heart desires and the ability to flaunt it, hearing which Leold realizes that he has stumbled into dangerous territory. She adds that it is utterly infuriating, hearing which Leold understands that to know the world beyond these walls is a wish that carries the weight of her entire existence. He says, though it may be but a small comfort, he asks if he might bring her fresh goods from Zeet's harvest. Surprisingly, she asks if he would do that, as she would be delighted to hear tales of Zeet as well. In response, Leold says it would be her honor and asks to consider it a solemn promise. Just then, a maid arrives and says they have been searching everywhere for her. To this, Sylvia bids him goodbye and says until they meet again, as she shall eagerly await his return. As she leaves, Leold sighs with relief. He bumps his head on the podium, realizing that they finally cleared things up. He thinks he now truly understands her vigilance towards him was only natural, given her position. And above all, they share the same passionate desire to protect their people and homeland. After a while, Erina arrives and says the golden pig returns victorious, as his boundless audacity never ceases to amaze her. Hearing this, Leold turns back and sees Irina Vanstein, who greets long-time no-see, who he knows to be the Marquis daughter, one of the legendary capture targets in Fate 48. Leold narrates that day, when Sieg struck him after his reincarnation into this world, she witnessed everything. He calls out Irina, who tells him not to take this the wrong way. She says she is here only because her father told her to be, and frankly, she would rather be elsewhere. She comments first on a triumphant return, now seeking to ingratiate himself with Her Highness Sylvia, and remarks how fitting for a beast's survival instinct. To this, Leold says that is not his intention at all. But Sylvia accuses him of playing the hero with Zeet's water crisis and averting monster catastrophes, masquerading as the servant's savior. Erina asks if he thinks his crimes will simply go poof, and jokes that he can't be serious. Erina demands how dare he think such shallow deeds would balance out his past, and asks if he can't see, he will only be hurting more people. She adds that his unending naivety makes her sick, to which Leold questions if he will hurt others. Erina tells him to mark her words, and consider this his warning, because a pig like him deserves to die alone in the dregs of society, and asserts that is the price of his redemption. Hearing this, Leold is shocked, and comments that he does not think that is the case, but Erina insists that his silver tongue cannot fool her anymore. And no matter what anyone says, he will never earn her forgiveness, not until the stars turn cold. After a while, Leold says it has been quite some time, addressing His Highness, and adds that while the visit is unexpected, he is deeply grateful for this audience, and that he is truly humbled by her grace. He informs that the fruit vendor he frequents spoke highly of this year's exceptional harvest, which is why he simply had to have her taste it herself. In response, Sylvia says she has been eagerly awaiting his visit. She says she can hardly believe he has kept his word from back then, as it brings her such joy to welcome him today as a cherished friend. Seeing him, she comments that, as Isabel mentioned, he has undergone quite a transformation since they last met, while Leold narrates that 2 months have passed since the celebration. Starting with the water management, various infrastructure problems are being addressed, and in that time, Autumn's bounty has finally blessed Zeet, as the vendor lady calls out to Leold. He asks Auntie if everything is alright, and the woman replies better than alright and says he must try this as she offers him an apple. As he takes a bite, he says the apple is really good, to which she informs that this year's harvest has exceeded all expectation. The lady acknowledges that it is all thanks to Leold's hard work, and happily comments that they are counting on him. To this, Leold says, as payment for the apple, he has got to make the town even better. Hearing which, they laugh out in joy and say that would be a great help, but he insists that he is serious. Leold asks if they can prepare a box of these, and she replies, sure, as she will give him a discount too, to which he narrates that he remembers his promise to Her Highness, as he makes his way to the royal capital. Hearing this, Sylvia says, speaking of which, it is almost as if he has transformed into a young lion. To this, Leold comments that he has been training from the basics these past 3 months, as he supposes the tournament is only a month away now. Leold laughs and asks Sylvia if she would like to try these first. Delightedly, he says she heard this year's crop is the finest yet and thinks they are best eaten with the skin on, to which Sylvia asks if that really is the case. She asks if she has to eat them with the peel, when Leod suddenly interrupts her and grabs the apple, which is Yanks in his big mouth. He starts biting on the apple, which surprises Sylvia. With joy, he says it is really good, as there is something about delicious food that just makes people smile. He asks to please excuse his outburst, to which Sylvia asks if he would keep what happens next between the two of them a secret. Then, Sylvia takes a bite and reacts with a sharp gasp. She says this is truly extraordinary, and explains it is the perfect balance of juiciness, sweetness, and lingering aroma, so she must express her deepest gratitude to Zeet's fertile lands and its dedicated people. In response, Leod says that she is most eloquent, and he could only manage to say it was delicious, but Sylvia argues not at all. She says sometimes the simplest words touch hearts most deeply, and that he has taken the apple's joy and passed that delight directly to her. She expresses that his gratitude towards both the fruit and its creators is clear, and that she is blessed to be able to enjoy those feelings as well. Hearing this, Leod reflects that she is far more thoughtful and compassionate than he could ever be. He realizes the immense popularity of Saintess Sylvia, despite not being a conquest target, now makes perfect sense, as he never bothered to understand why she was so beloved. While he understands that her fans must have seen these wonderful qualities in her actions and words all along. He thinks that he prided himself on knowing everything about fate, but he still has so much to learn, while Sylvia says that she would also like to offer something in return. She gets up as if she remembers something, and asks if she could borrow a moment of his time, to which he agrees with of course. She asks to excuse her for a while, which confuses him. As Leod waits, he narrates that it must have been at least an hour by now, and he complains that he is getting bored. He knows that he does not mind waiting, but wonders what Sylvia must be doing. Suddenly, she arrives with a maid carrying a tray of food, as she apologizes for keeping him waiting, seeing which Leod is shocked. Sylvia says that she wanted to thank him for sharing those lovely apples with her, while as Leod observes the food, he reacts asking if that is really apple pie. Sylvia asks him to help himself, as he internally thanks her for the meal. He takes a morsel of the pie and is instantly shocked. He shouts that this is absolutely delicious, and compliments that the tart apples and the cinnamon complement each other perfectly, and the buttery aroma and the contrasting textures make it even better. He continues that the fresh apples were amazing on their own, but to think they could transform into something so complex in human hands, as he observes Sylvia's face and compliments that she is absolutely glowing. To this, Sylvia says she is so relieved, and explains it has been a while since she last baked, but it was worth the effort. Hearing this, Leod asks in disbelief if the pie is Sylvia's own creation, and wonders if it is really okay for him to eat it. To this, Sylvia confirms that indeed it is, hearing which Leod wonders if this is not way too casual for someone of her status. Finally, Leod confesses that Sylvia is truly amazing, and says he has never tasted an apple pie this exquisite, while Sylvia responds modestly by joking they do call her the perfect saint after all. But Leod argues that this generosity is too much, and says he must find a way to repay her, while Sylvia exclaims with surprise about a return gift for a return gift. She asks if she may make a request, as she would like to visit the marketplace, but Leod questions the marketplace, and she replies with yes, she wishes to go privately, without an escort. To this, Leod observes that surely the royal capital's marketplace must have such variety, not just from Zeet but products from other regions too. To which Sylvia admits she knows so little of what lies beyond these walls. She replies that it was only today that she learned that such delicious apples grew in their own kingdom. Hearing which, Leod realizes what is happening. He understands that of course, as the saint, she cannot leave the royal capital. Being such an important figure, even trips within the city must be restricted, which is why she wants to experience new things, and wonders if that is not just a basic human desire. Finally, he answers that he understands Her Highness, to which she expresses shock. With a wide smile, he says if she will accept his humble assistance, but argues that it will really be alright to do this in secret, to which Sylvia says to leave the details to her, and Leod thinks what a tremendous responsibility. Finally, Sylvia says that besides, this time she will make sure to return before dusk. Leod does not understand, but she changed the topic and says it is nothing at all, and then they decide they will set off in 2 weeks' time. Sylvia hands him something which is for everyone. She adds that these are some treats to take home, as they are delicious even when cold. In response, Leod says that her thoughtfulness humbles him, to which Sylvia argues not at all until they meet again. As he leaves, he thinks Her Highness has truly forgiven him, even though he was once nothing but a golden pig. She calls him friend, despite the risks of associating with someone like him, and she is a rare and precious ally, so he must live up to her trust. After a while, someone welcomes him back home. Gilbert asks if he was able to meet with the fourth princess, to which he replies that he is back, apologizing to Gilbert for being away, while Gilbert welcomes him back and asks if dinner should be prepared right away. Leold says he is home and gives Isabel a souvenir, asking her to serve it after dinner, to which she responds as he wishes. Suddenly, she reacts to the smell of apple pie. Leold says that Isabel will not believe it, and that it was made by Her Highness Sylvia herself. Hearing this, Isabel cries out no way and asks what Leold has done this time, and he replies that none for Shiria. Hearing his joke, Shiria beats him playfully, and he apologizes while saying he is just kidding. He says Her Highness is truly amazing, as she has refinement, wit, and even exceptional cooking skills. Hearing this, Isabel glances at him, and comments that Her Highness never settles for less and always masters things alone, as that is the kind of person she is. Hearing this, Leold compliments Isabel for being such a hard worker, while she adds that Her Highness never spares any effort in her pursuits, as she reveres her as a master she is proud to serve. To this, Leold replies indeed, and thinks she is wonderful too. With that, Shiria quickly pulls him away from Isabel. Seeing which, Isabel contemplates if she is a hard worker, but acknowledges that it goes far beyond such simple terms. 2 weeks later, in the streets of the royal capital, Kamachi Castle Town, Leold stands alone and wonders aloud if this is the place. Then, Sylvia comes up to him and whispers in his ear to stay quiet, hearing which Leold goes into ecstasy and surprise. He falls on the ground out of shock, shouts Your Highness, as he deeply apologizes. Seeing his reaction, Sylvia is equally in shock. She tells him to quiet down, for which he apologizes again. Seeing his reaction, the passers-by wonder if Sylvia could really be on a secret visit. So she starts pretending and shouts back. Seriously, she has told him this already, as she hates being called that. She tells him to call her Dahlia and to repeat after her. Hearing which, Leold wonders what kind of game this is, but the civilians are convinced that Leold got her name wrong, and he is causing trouble again. He thinks that they figured it out somehow. Leold apologizes again, as he truly did not think she would be alone. Sylvia replies that it is nothing to be worried about, explaining that whenever she leaves the castle, several guards always follow, to which Leold responds with a casual agreement, while he internally admits he has absolutely no idea who the guards are though. She states that calling her Your Highness is forbidden for the day, to which he responds affirmatively. She says that right now, she is just Dahlia and hopes that is fine with him. Seeing her behavior, Leold realizes that Sylvia's incognito mode has been activated, as she tells him to lead the way, and they start walking like lovers. After a while, they visit the florists, and even meet a cat, which brings her a lot of happiness. She visits many places around the town which she has never seen before. Suddenly, she finds a nun, who says alright, then, and suggests they say a prayer of thanks to God and the Holy Saintess, to which the child responds enthusiastically in agreement. Seeing this, Sylvia tells him he did a good job, to which he gets happy. He hesitantly addresses her as Lady Dahlia, and asks what kind of duties a saintess performs. She explains, it is no different from a general priest's duties, involving morning prayers, evening prayers, and rituals in service to the gods. Hearing this, Leold does not understand anything she just said. As Sylvia looks up the statue, she prays may the prayers of that family be safely heard and answered. She adds that part of her role is conveying everyone's wishes and feelings of gratitude to the gods, as well as presiding over and managing the progress of religious ceremonies. She explains that for formal ceremonies, all the footwork and movements are different, to which he comments that it sounds quite difficult, and Sylvia affirms that it is a very important duty. She remarks that although her elder sisters handle diplomacy as princesses, she cannot be completely separated from politics. She elaborates that despite being a religious figure, she is also a member of the royal family and furthermore, serves as the keystone to national defense and wields the sacred barrier. Then, she reflects that though they may be blades of grass in a vast field, if their people can lead peaceful and happy lives, it is enough. As she expresses her gratitude to God for allowing her to choose this way of life, Leold observes how happy Sylvia is on this day. As they run over a grassy meadow, Leold asks her to watch her step. He asks if it is safe for her to come all the way out here, to which she says yes, they are still within close proximity. From the distance, she comments that the vastness is incredible. As she gazes over the horizon, with eyes full of excitement, she tells him to look. She says it is like something out of a dream, and points out the town and the castle, while saying look how tiny they are. Overjoyed, she says they really went a world away. She describes that the torrid grass has such fervor, like the smell of life, and how fast the clouds are racing by among the blue sky, which is so beautiful it is almost frightening. She looks up at the open sky and compliments that the world is so vast. Sylvia asks if she is not such a fool because here she is, the saintess, who has never even known how good the wind could feel blowing by. She calls out to Leold and says she is the holy saintess, but she wants to try being just herself and nothing more. She says that as the saintess, it has always been about giving everything to the country, that it is only natural, while her mission is to protect this land and its people, even if it costs her life. But she was never allowed to wish for her own happiness. Being so happy, she comments that back there she thought for a moment, and right there, the holy saintess could just be Sylvia. Seeing her, Leold reflects on how she lives in such a lonely but noble way, and yet, she is just a girl his age. Leold, reflecting on his own past loneliness in the corporate world, felt a deep resonance with her words, recalling the crushing solitude despite being surrounded by people, like a stone on the side of the road. He knows that he felt more connected to the others when he was alone in his apartment, as he hated that life, hated that same loneliness she endured now, and he cried out internally, wondering how she bore it all. Choking back emotion, he tells her sincerely that he never realized just how much she was pushing herself. To this, Sylvia teases him with a soft smile, asking with a twinkle in her eye how much he had been expecting. Leold answers that with all due respect, considering her duties and emotions, he would be lying if he said he fully understood them. But even so he knows this much, that she is not protecting the smiles of all those people, because she is the saintess, as she took on that task, because she is Sylvia, which is why she is the one who needs to be happy the most. He adds that she is carrying out a secret and noble duty and brightest of all, and deserves to have more than anyone else. So from this day on, he asks her to find things that bring her joy, one by one until they blot out the stars. He continues that he will help her along the way, which causes her surprise. Sylvia says that it's her first time anyone has said something like that to her, and asks if it is really okay when she is supposed to be the holy saintess. Leold laughs and says, of course, and asks her to remember that he is just the golden pig, and tells her not to worry about it as change is not a bad thing. Sylvia wonders someone in the future, will she also change, and will she also be free? With this, she smiles in amazement, and comments that she is really grateful, and expresses gratitude for him. Suddenly, she hears a noise and looks up, when all of a sudden someone drops on the ground dramatically. A band of villain girls arrive, and taunt that they have been waiting for this moment for so long, and demand her to prepare herself, as they rush forward trying to grab her. Soon, some maids arrive out of nowhere, as they declare Sylvia's royal guard reporting for duty. With that, one of the guards hit the enemy. Seeing this, when the other tries to get back at her, the maid counters back by deflecting her attack too, seeing which Leold realizes they are so strong. So he urgently tells Her Highness they must evacuate to a safer place, but she refuses. She apologizes to Leold for drawing him into this, as she asks Lord Leold to please stand back, while he questions her. With that, she raises her hands in the air, and chants in the name of God. She calls forth these radiant arrows of light. Seeing her, Leold realizes that is high tier, holy magic, as she yells Holy Lance. With that, the band of villains are overwhelmed, as they are nearing their defeat. Then, one of the guards asks the princess if she is unharmed, and she replies that she is fine, and also asks who these people are. Out of nowhere, one of them dashes in to grab Sylvia, as she taunts her to fall to the earth. Seeing this, Leold warns her to watch out. In her rescue, one of the maids comes in the way to save her, taking the hit herself. She groans in pain, while the villain promises to finish her the next day. As they engage in a heated battle of kicks and punches, then Gilbert arrives and calls Leold out, which shocks him. He asks if they shall have a match, and they begin sparring, punching each other out, while Gilbert defends his hits. He comments that Leold's movements lack sharpness and precision, and sends him flying. As Leold gets up, he states that he knows he is making progress step by step. While he admits he is also acutely aware of his own powerlessness, every time he tries to act, he lacks the strength to do what is needed, and it is maddening. Hearing this, Gilbert says that frustration is the mark of growth, and recognizing one's own weakness ignites the will to advance. He asks why Leold wants to become so strong. In response, he says he wants to at least become a man worthy of his title. As a lord, as a person, he wants to be someone she can rely on. With resolve, he shouts that he wants to become someone who lives for others, as he hates the feeling of being utterly useless. To this, Gilbert instructs to listen carefully, because if he wants to achieve what must be done, strength is indispensable, but he warns that strength can lead to indulgence and corruption. So he advises that to prevent this one must forge both mind and body, master discipline, and embrace humility to govern oneself. To this, Leold agrees and says he too wants to live righteously as a person. Gilbert says, furthermore, there are things in this world only a person of noble lineage can achieve, so it will be a difficult road, and he will face countless trials, as there are things people like him, who dwell in the shadows, could never accomplish. He pulls Leold up and says, if he as a leader takes responsibility and vows to serve the people and the land, then surely the future of their nation will shine brightly. Hearing this, Leold stands determinedly and says if he can witness that future, then even his life in the shadows will have meaning. To this, Gilbert comments that he knows Lord Leold can do it, and says he is not alone. From this, Leold realizes that everyone is trying their best to live. He says Gilbert and Her Highness too, as he thinks that right now he has many people around him, as these are people who support him, people who encourage him, people who help him, people who watch over him. He thinks some people are hostile and some are on his side. While even if it seems simple, it is never easy. He thinks even when he tries hard it does not always pay off, which is why he is glad he never gave up, as he realizes that now he understands there are things only he can do. So, he thanks Gilbert and says he will do his best to make it happen, and requests him to keep watching him. To this, Gilbert answers of course he will, to which Leold decides to continue their sparring. Eventually, Leold narrates that the resolve was also shattered into pieces. During the fight, the uniformed enemy dashes at Sylvia, and taunts her to prepare herself. Seeing her approach, both Sylvia and Leold are shocked. Just then, someone comments not so fast, and throws a barrage of sharp swords in their ways, stopping their attack. The enemy girl asks who is there. After a while, when the enemy girl has fallen, one of Sylvia's guard maids kneel beside her and demand to know who gave her the orders. As she bleeds to her death, the enemy girl replies that the false saint shall be deposed soon. Seeing her death, Leold asks if that is poison, but Sylvia replies that this is a curse, and they must have used dark magic to conceal their identity, and wonders how could they. The guard who took the attack comments that she is glad Sylvia is safe, as she bleeds all over her body. Seeing whom Sylvia and Leold are alerted, they get to her soon, and ask her to hold on and stay with her, as she observes that these blades are coated with poison. Sylvia tells her not to worry, as she is going to heal her right then. She chants, by her prayer, may her tainted body be purified, as a glob of magical water gets conjured over the ailing body. Soon, the glob of water turns into an immense bubble, and bursts in the sky under the sun. As she chants the clearance spell, Sylvia places her hand on the guard and comments that she is safe then. She thanks her for saving her life, and asks her to rest, while the other maids call her out. They apologize as they could not determine their identities. They reason that it was likely the same curse, as they self-destructed leaving no trace behind, so it cannot be helped. To this, Sylvia apologizes for putting them all in danger. Hearing this, Leold tells her not to, as the situation was completely unforeseen, and his lack of foresight is to blame, which is why he apologizes. To this, Sylvia argues that it was all because of her, and tells him not to blame himself. She adds that the words he gave her today will always be in her heart. She rises up and says that from this day on, as the saintess Sylvia, she has gained the courage and resolve to continue forward, and it is all thanks to him. Seeing her, Leold does not know what to say. After a while, he goes back home and punches in the air with grunts. As he practices alone, he narrates that everything he has learned up to then was useless, as he failed to live up to her expectations, trust, and friendship. But even before that, he did not truly understand her resolve and the weight of her duty. He wonders what he should have done back then, but thinks that is not it. Again he contemplates looking at his hand, as he wonders what he could have done. He thinks that he does not know what he has been doing at all, yet he got carried away by minor successes, and foolishly thought that he could be useful to someone like Sylvia, as he curses for failing. But just then someone calls him. After a while, Leold sits at his desk and says he never thought he would receive a letter like this, to which Gilbert tells him that this might be an excellent opportunity to test the results of his efforts so far. The letter reads to Leold Harvest, recognizing his remarkable achievements during the Monster Panic, and stating that he is hereby granted the right to participate in the Tournament of Champions, as he smiles slightly while holding the letter close. Leold imagines himself as he stands at the arena gate staring at Sieg in the distance, as the decree tells him to prove his worth and reclaim his honor through victory by decree of the 64th king of the Kingdom of Algabane. Alberian Algabane. He narrates that following the suppression of the monster panic, a tournament of champions is being held to entertain the people and determine the mightiest knight in all the land. In Castle Town of the royal capital Hartley, Leold holds the letter thoughtfully and comments while he also recalls hearing whispers that Captain Baynard of the esteemed Knight Order staunchly championed his inclusion. So if the insidious tendrils of doubt truly grip his resolve towards participation, propriety dictates that he first seek an audience with Captain Baynard. He narrates that Captain Baynard, who is a towering figure of such unyielding boldness and unwavering rectitude, as he confesses with a flicker of pride that knowing this man's faith, however misplaced it might be, rests upon his shoulders. However, he remembers Irina, who confronts Leold, questioning if he genuinely believes the despicable litany of atrocities he amassed can simply be erased or forgiven, and if he is so profoundly detached from reality, so willfully blind that he fails to comprehend the inevitable recurrent tide of suffering he will unleash upon innocent people once more. She finishes her statement with piercing sadness, warning Leold that he will only hurt others again. Leold smirks confidently and pledges himself to walk this path as Leold, while admitting that no elaborate denials are necessary and that he is unequivocally that infamous loathsome golden pig. He reflects that yet this gnawing dissonance persists, as these so-called atrocities are recounted with visceral detail, but they remain abstract, divorced from his own lived experience. Feeling as if he is condemned to perpetually bear the crushing weight of sins committed by a phantom, a spectral echo, who merely shares this burden. While walking through a narrow alley, Leold questions why Irina's animosity burns with such scorching intensity, and wonders if there is a hidden abyss within Leold's past depths of depravity that even the game in its superficial rendering of the Golden Pig's villainy failed to illuminate something unaccounted for. But he reflects that now this is no longer a game for him, as this is real life, and it is Leold's life. Standing before the grand structure of Zeet, Leold thinks for the sake of everyone in Zeet who accepted him. He moves forward determinedly and resolves internally that he wants to move forward, even if it's just one step at a time, and comments this edifice must be the Knight Order's outpost. Suddenly Leold shouts her name with urgency, to which Irina turns around sharply with surprise as she clenches her teeth and glares at him. Irina confronts him angrily, asking what he is doing here of all places, as they stand face to face. They start arguing as Irina berates Leold by asking what he thinks he is doing, showing up in Zeet and reminding him she told him to stay out of sight and stick to the outskirts. To which Leold responds calmly that he came here to withdraw from the Tournament of Champions. Irina sneers bitterly by saying how noble of him, but then adds with a sharp edge that knowing him it is just a matter of time before he worms his way back into things. While Irina in a cold tone mocks him, asking if he seriously thinks he can outsmart her. What a joke. Hearing which Leold wonders why, as he stands stunned, questioning why she hates him so much. Irina answers with anguish in her voice, and accuses Leold of stomping on people like they are nothing, and then having the audacity to act as if he is moving forward, while everyone he has crushed is left behind, broken and defeated as he keeps marching on without a care. She glares at Leold with folded arms, calling him nothing but a heartless scoundrel, and accusing him of wiping his hands clean of everything he has done, while Leold protests by desperately shouting, "That's not true." Leold shouts earnestly that he is not that person anymore, and even thought about spending the rest of his life in Zeet, as he swears from the bottom of his heart that he just wants to live a decent, honest life. While thinking there is nothing else he can do but lay it all out for her, Leold pleads with open desperation, asking please Irina believe him. In response, Irina with a cold sharp glare rejects him flatly. With steely disdain, Irina declares that Leold is still the same golden pig he has always been. As she stands firm with arms crossed and fury in her eyes, she brands Leold a filthy, irredeemable villain. In the heavy darkness, Leold thinks to himself that he does not understand, and even if she hates his guts, he questions why she is going out of her way to stir up trouble. Irina mocks him, asking if he is playing servant now, hauling water and wrestling monsters, and accuses him that all this show is just to get the peasants to clap for him. He must be loving this. She tells him that he still does not get it because nobles are not supposed to get their hands dirty, and asserts that this whole thing is just some childish game he is playing with himself. She demands if Leold is really going to stand there and tell her otherwise, and accuses him that he just had to be the hero for the helpless people. She questions bitterly if that is why he was running around in the sticks, trying to make himself feel important, and if he even realizes he screwed over real workers who were just trying to earn a living. While Leold responds in shock, Irina tells Leold that a noble has bigger things to worry about and that he should be focused on the future of his land and his people, not this pointless nonsense. Leold answers, despite the harsh words, that even so he cannot in good conscience accept that his actions were inherently wrong, as he imagines the smiling townsfolk wave cheerfully. To this, she screams furiously at Hold to stop with the lies, declaring that she knows everything. She continues, yelling that the people Leold trampled on are still paying the price for his good deeds, and accuses him of strolling back into the capital like nothing ever happened, asking if he honestly thought she would just shut up and let him get away with it. Leold sweats and pleads desperately, shouting enough with the blame to just listen to him please. Leold, with a strained expression, cries out that he does not want to hurt anyone anymore, as he thinks just as much as he hates getting hurt himself. Irina glares fiercely and retorts, fine. If he is really that clueless, she will show him exactly what his so-called redemption actually did and let her spell it out for him. She reminds him about the Monster Panic Festival, and asks if he remembers seeing the Harvest family there, to which Leold responds in a yes. She adds that when they got turned away, they took it as a slap in the face, like they were being looked down on, or maybe they thought it was some kind of pity thing, a way to keep them quiet. Irina explains that either way they went after Clarice of all people, to which Leold reacts in shock, thinking what happened to Clarice. Irina explains coldly that they started saying the broken engagement was all Clarice's fault, spreading lies everywhere, and that they did not stop there. They tried to drag Vanessa's whole family name through the mud. As Irina accuses that all of it was done to make him look better, Leold sweats and clenches his eyes shut in anguish. She continues grimly that now those rumors are everywhere, people actually believe them, and they think it's the truth, and that the family that used to be so respected is now in ruin. She keeps shouting that all of it, every single bit of it, is his fault, all because he just had to come back to the capital, to which Leold tries to protest weakly, saying that's not it and he didn't mean to do it. Irina yells with raw anger, declaring that Clarice is not his toy to mess with, and asks what kind of twisted revenge Leold is playing at to push things this far. She reveals that even Sieg is caught up in his mess, to which Leold recoils in horror. She reveals that Sieg gave up his dream of being an adventurer to become a knight just to protect Clarice, and that all of it, every sacrifice he made, is all because of Leold. Hearing this, Leold stammers and breaks down, saying he is so sorry, because he thought that all this time, all he wanted was to fix the awful things he did to do something good for other people, and he never imagined it would turn out like this, not even for a second. Suddenly, Sieg arrives and insists that Irina is wrong, and argues that if Commander Baynard himself invites him face to face, he cannot just say no. Irina shouts Sieg with relief, as Sieg approaches, casually teasing them, and joking that it took him forever to find them, as he finally sees the two of them yelling like kids. Then, Clarice approaches slowly with a heavy aura and says it has been a while, Lord Leold, and Leold whispers Clarice's name. He acknowledges that Clarice is nothing like the bright, cheerful person he remembers, so he feels heartbroken as he wonders, did he do this to her, and if this is his fault. Suddenly, a serious voice calls out to Lord Leold, saying they need to talk, to which he looks startled and tense. After a while, Leold narrates that many years have passed but he still regrets going there even to this day. The girl asks Lord Leold if she may ask why he is in a place like this, as she pulls on the door. Suddenly, she looks at him wide-eyed and startled, gasping in shock. Seeing the events going on in the room, someone declares he has been waiting for his fiancée, causing further shock to her. She asks Leold, asking what in the world he is doing there. To this, Leold responds with what she means, as it is called a party, and asks if Clarice needs more explanation. Hearing this, she gets nervous and asks if he thinks this is acceptable, as she warns that she is going to report this to the staff. To this, Leold taunts back, asking what she thinks will happen to these women if she does that, as everyone is going to find out what they did to them, and it will all be because of her. Hearing this sends shockwaves to her core, as she cannot believe he would stoop this low. Suddenly, Leold grabs her by the hand and comments that she is a good girl, and asks her condescendingly to keep her cute mouth shut for him. He goes on to lick her face, but Clarice shoves him away in disgust and demands to let go of her, to which Leold tells her to be careful. He pushes her to fall on the ground, and asks who she thinks she actually is, calling her a pig. Soon, he kneels down and apologizes since he hurt her, and tells her not to forget that this is all her fault. He grabs her by the hair and comments that she is a part of this, and tells her to understand like a good girl. With that, they continue their horrific part, and do awful things to her, upon which she begs for mercy, terrified and disgusted. She narrates that she could not bear the sight of the women being abused, so she ran away and deserted them like a coward. Hearing this, Leold is in disbelief as he asks why he would ever do that, to her of all people. In response, Clarice says that it is not like talking about it will make anything change. Hearing which, Leold realizes he never knew such a horrific thing has happened. He narrates that the only mention of this in Fate 48 was he made her cry, which was Sieg's statement being all that he had to go off. He knows that it does not matter if it was just a game, as there are things they just don't do as a human being. Trampling on another person's dignity is no excuse, no matter who does it, and he resolves to never let it slide. Then, Clarice calmly says that she has heard about his recent successes from Sieg, which surprises him. To this, he begins to explain about what Irina has been saying earlier. She asks if he is referring to the story of the Vanessa family ruin, or if she is being called a villainess. She answers that both are true. She explains that with every step he takes towards fame, her suffering actually grows. Hearing this, Leold narrates that in the capital Hartley, it is said his fiancée is a wicked villainess, while his wicked acts were not of true will, and as proof, they point to the liberated prodigy already recovering his lost shine. She mentions that they say the root of all evil is named Clarice Vanessa, or so the whispers go. Hearing which, Leold is in disbelief. Clarice explains that a faction eager to curry favor with the Harvest Marquis house took advantage of the rumors, and as a result, both people and possession bled from the Vanessa family, while her whole family and their retainers are barely holding on, and the business is frantically trying to gather funds, so she fears the day they are plunged into poverty is fast approaching. Calmly, Clarice asks why he did this to them, and what did she do wrong, and even if she did do something wrong, if she is expected to simply smile as she is and move on. Seeing her cold face, Leold narrates that she has gone through senseless bullying and relentless harassment, which means what that trash pig from the past did to Clarice is the same as what his boss did to him, which is to treat people like toys to be flung around.